This episode of RPMMORadio is brought to you by all our amazing and generous Patreon donors. Visit us at patreon.com/RPMMORadio to help support the show. It is also brought to you by...
Hi there. Hey, how's it going? Look, I need your help. I'm Randy, Randy the MMO dev. I have a kind of a confession here to make. Yeah, we're out of ideas. I mean, not like, oh, I don't know what to have for dinner. Any idea? I mean, kind of like, oh, we're having turkey slices and gravy TV dinners for all of eternity, and the only way to make it interesting is in what order you eat the turkey, the peas, and the mashed potatoes. Kind of out of ideas. It's been pretty bad, and we've just been rearranging features in our game since like 2005, and I'm not sure, but I think people are kind of starting to notice, so I kind of need your help here. I have some ideas that I think can revolutionize our games, but everyone around me only drools on their keyboard and eats raw cans of Spam for sustenance, so I have to come to you. So here's my ideas. All right, what do you think of this? Chapstick, the MMO. So what we do is we take Chapstick, and the more you put on, the higher level you get in the game. Or instead of leveling, your character just ages at the same pace you do, and you have the same job and family, and you update things on Facebook, and you just live your life. No, okay. What about another legacy server? People love the legacy servers. Not like just a normal one, but like a legacy server to an already active legacy server. So you can replay the legacy of a legacy as a new legacy. So, something Star Wars? World of Warcraft 2, Electric Elven Boogaloo. What do you people want from me? We already gave you the ability to sit down most of the time, and like every cosmetic pet we can think of to follow you around. There's nothing left. What do you want? A new world? What, new game mechanics? New engines? Depth? You know how hard that is? It's impossible. It's literally, it cannot be done anymore. Okay, so fine. One last pitch. We call it Everything Always. We put in every item in the game on a cash shop, and you just buy it with real-world money and your firstborn. And you'll get everything you want in the game. No, not a fan of our EA idea either. Okay, fine. You know what? I give up. Quit. That's it. You want something? Make it up yourself. Go fuck yourself. I quit. Crapcrow HR rep here. Hi, how's it going? We currently have a dev spot open just now in our MMO development department. Just apply at the link below, and remember, Crapco, we produce it, you'll consume it.
You're listening to RPMMORadio.
Does internet porn know you're cheating on it?
Where entertainment and roleplay in MMORPGs have little hybrid mutant babies.
Make a note of this. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor on your whole family.
And now, here's your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Civ, Jazz, Strafe, and Yunfei.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Hello there, role players. Welcome to the 83rd episode of RPMMORadio, Modern MMOs, The Death of Innovation. You can tell it's a question because of the way I say it at the end. I'm Ashen Phoenix. With me today is the ladies, Jazz, Sib, and Yunfei.
Hey!
Hello.
Well, hello, music that's going to recycle itself. That's why you don't hit the button for repeats when you're doing intro songs. So, Strafe couldn't be here today. He is actually with his mom. There's no punchline. He's just with his mom. I mean, I don't know. That's.
Oh, jeez.
You don't mess with. You don't. Honestly, I I told him he should just bring her on the show. She's probably 10 times more interesting than he is, but he thought it was a joke. No, I mean, really, she's probably 10 times more interesting than he is. But that's beside the point. So we get it. I guess he's having early Mother's Day. We're just going to go with that. Mama's boy. I mean, to be fair, if she got the cool swag that he gets from my mom, I would probably love my mom too.
You do love your mom. Got that.
Shh, don't ruin it. I love my mommy. All right. Everybody have a good time. Good weekend. 2 weeks off.
Last weekend was nice because I just kind of putted around. I cooked. I did a whole bunch of stuff in the evening I normally can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun.
You're welcome for the distraction of being able to be away from your family for a solid 2 hours every week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, ours was pretty, or we just kind of did stuff and things and the usual unfortunate things that happens in life, having to pay bills, get a sore throat on Friday, get better by Sunday, have one good day on Monday, wake up on Tuesday with a sinus infection, that kind of a thing. It was a great couple of weeks. Yeah, I got shot in the ass, so that was, taking the, I don't know if anybody's noticed on the camera, but I'm totally on the juice now, so, got the steroids that kind of feel like oddly enough, like a Russian bodybuilder. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
On the women's team.
Uh-huh.
So
That's appropriate.
I am strong like 10 Russian women. So, yeah, it's all good. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We do it live most every day, usually the last day of the week we take off. 7 Central Time, twitch.tv/
Last day of the week or month?
Don't correct me.
I will correct you when I want to
Don't correct me. You know what I meant. I mean, other people might not have, but I'm glad at least somebody knew what I meant. Yes. Last weekend usually of every month. That is correct. So, twitch.tv/ RPMMORadio. Go there. Follow, subscribe, just like Grandma Gothy did. Not to be confused, I think, with Gothy Girl, which is another Gothy. We've got 2 Gothies now.
Woo-hoo!
One apparently is the grandma to the other. So, yes, thank you, Grandma Gothy, for following. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And, of course, we have podcasts, so you can find us wherever free podcasts are sold, Apple, iTunes, whatever the 15,000 different apps Android has. So, all right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and see, because we've got a long list of show notes today to get through, as we're going to go through the history of MMOs and why, maybe it's just me, but I've asked around. It's not. Why MMOs seem to have basically given up on anything new and innovating, and why that happened, or maybe even when that happened. And maybe we can figure out when we'll pull up out of this nosedive that the genres ran itself into before it Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom crashes into the side of a mountain as they float gently down in an inflating yellow raft. I really love that movie. I don't know if anyone has probably seen it a lot. So anyway, so Jazz.
Yes.
I heard you roleplayed. I heard there was a rumor.
I did.
On the
I
streets.
roleplayed all weekend, and I roleplayed during the week. You're
actually part of why I just really decided to do this show too. Because you started playing something else again.
Oh, well, yes. I have.
And I noticed you didn't start playing something new.
No.
Because there's nothing new to play.
No, there's nothing out there. Zilch that I want to play. Nothing. So I play Fallout, of course, but that's not roleplay.
That's not, yeah.
Unless we voice roleplay, and we haven't done that again, although it was a great deal of fun.
It was very
yes. So I re-downloaded Guild Wars 2 and Tor, which I had both very good experiences with. I'm sad to report that Guild Wars 2 has no roleplay.
Oh, really?
Anywhere that I could find, it's all... Well, Tor has the same problem. They've all gone into their own private little niches of
Oh yeah, because they have housing now too. Yeah,
they have housing, and because the games have categorically refused to do anything about trolls, and they actually promote trolls, and they think it's funny, and they refuse to do anything about trolls, all roleplay has gone undercover, which in an essence, in a kind of a way, has killed it.
yeah. Unless you know where it's at, you can't. It's like
Right.
trying to find the secret layers in Blade, where you have to have like the neon light and vampire symbols in order to read the outside. Like, this is a secret layer of vampires. This is where all the role players go to hide. You don't know.
So I mean, in EQ2, and I have to say, even though it was this toxic trash can fire, one of the things that EQ did really, really well was housing and guild halls. Because they allowed you to not only advertise your guild as a roleplay guild, but somehow, because of the way that they did it, it didn't kill roleplay. All it did was we just went private, and it continued to flourish for years.
Well, they also made it easily accessible. You just click on the bell and you go to the visit.
Yeah.
And you
can visit anywhere.
Yeah, you could visit anybody's
and by
house
word
or
of
guild
mouth,
hall.
we quickly picked up where places were and what times they were. And it just worked. But in these other guilds, in these other games, like Guild Wars 2, it's the community, and I have to say this, and I'm sorry for those people that are in this that like it, it sucks. It's clunky. It's not friendly. Even in Tor, and I have to share this because it was hilarious, and I laughed really hard. I went to Fleet. This is how desperate I was to try to find roleplay. Because the place where I used to go in Tor, the Slippery Slopes, is no longer where all the role players go.
Yeah, and that was the only place
good side's dead.
You could cross faction
you can,
roleplay.
But for whatever reason, they don't use it anymore. So it's all on Fleet, and it's mostly Sith RP. So I went there, and I gotta say, it was really sad. It was painful and very kind of cringy, but at the same time, it wasn't. There were some good stories going on. You could kind of see that there was some existing roleplay there. And some of my friends showed up, so we were role playing on the top part of the Fleet, just about what we were watching below. And I used the term racist. Now, in the game, during some of the quests, someone is called a racist once, and I remember the word being used. So I didn't see a problem with this. Well, this guy spends a paragraph and a half lecturing me on how racist is not speciest. It's not racist because they're not humans. And I was like, actually, racism doesn't make any sense as humans because we're all the same fucking race. But I didn't want to get into it with this obvious idiot, so I let it go. But
it's like you could be like how the Sith, the Sith, how they're all about the blood. So those of low blood, low Sith blood, they are racist against their own kind. They're technically still the Sith species,
but a racist is a race that cannot interbreed. That is what the word actually means. Race, a race. You can't, like, there's a race of cats and there's a race of dogs, and they can't interbreed. They're two different races of creatures.
Right.
Humans use it in the wrong context in the first goddamn place, and then this guy. Yeah. So anyway, that was my welcome back to Tor. Was this 2-paragraph thing? Yeah. And then he said, "Just trying to make your role play more fun. Thanks. Bye." I said, "Have a nice day." That's all I said.
Get the hell out.
This guy makes me tired. It's still here.
Kind soul.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like the people in Lotro that would send me tells to correct my spelling and my punctuation and my capitalization. Yeah. There's always that person.
You didn't put the proper comma or this or that on some crazy elven name. It's like, I don't get it.
So,
it's okay.
But anyway, the point being that I did find roleplay, but most of it was with people that I knew.
Again, right.
I did have somebody that still plays Star Wars Tor, and when I popped on, just had a giddy fit because I was there, and he immediately came to where I was, which was the Slippery Slopes, to roleplay with me.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah,
because it was somebody that. So it's kind of sort of ERP based, but it was still fun and it was nice to see him. Yeah. Anyway,
with the name of Slippery Slopes, I was wondering.
Yeah. Well, it was always a hotbed of it's the Rift.
Yeah,
it's Riften.
And it's the huts. It's where the huts. It's on Narshada.
Narshada.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on Narshada. It's the hut controlled area, so both groups could go there, even though we couldn't see each other's emotes, which is stupid.
Still.
Stupid.
That is stupid.
Yeah. Or sends each
but
other
we could
tells.
talk and then just put emotes in,
Asterisks.
asterisks and do it that way. And we figured it out. It was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it was basically Riften in the sense that 60% of it was either ERP or cringy.
Yeah.
But 30 to 40% was actually good RP, and I made a lot of good friends, and I made a lot of good RP.
Oh, good.
I went back over the weekend, last weekend, and I read through my old journals that I kept, like I did Vodka, I kept really good journals on Carib.
Yeah.
I don't remember half that crap.
Right.
I was reading it going, did that happen? And I talked to one of my friends and said, did we really? And he goes, oh yeah, that was a storyline. You don't remember it? And I'm like, oh my God, there's so much shit going on here. I don't even remember half this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, so it was nice, and I really enjoy Kariv because she's a bitch. And she's a lot of fun. She's a Sith. And she's very, very fun.
Well, yeah.
So I had good time with that. But I also have had a lot of time in Riften role-playing on Ciel. A lot in Riften. And developing some of her changes that she's going through. So that has been fun. And I did write a journal, so I'm going to read that before I move on. Okay. This is in her series on my journal site that I keep, and it's called Black Life, Blood Red. And I've read a couple things from her in the past. This is called New Edges Part 1, and it's the beginning of a storyline that I'm developing, or I'm part of with Trethalis. Ciel sat perched on a hill, on a tree, watching Trethalis' estate. He had come and gone numerous times in the last few days, sometimes with Voli, but usually alone. She had followed him to Voli's estate and back, never far, never close, watchful of him as she pondered his gait, his smell, his mannerisms. She felt very sure that once the change took place, she would know. She wanted to believe she knew him well enough, but the doubt persisted in her mind as she watched him come and go. After a few more days, she snuck into the estate and laid out wards, hidden neatly inside bed frames and chair frames, nestled snugly behind shelves and into cabinets, tucked high and hard to see. She peppered the estate with them, taking her time to place them perfectly so they would not be easily found, even by her mentor. She had wanted to charm them in shadow, but had not at the last minute, remembering that anyone loyal to Nocturnal would surely and easily find them by the signature alone. She opted instead for some carefully made paint, an ages-old device, to disguise and make hard to see any object. To make it more difficult, the runes were honed in squares to look like part of the furniture, and she took care to match the grain and color where she planned to put each one. Ciel left before anyone returned home and took care to cloak herself as well, just in case her mentor was watching by some magical or physical means. Now she sat in a far-off place, her old home in the swamp, built by her own hands and long forgotten by any passing hunter, blended in with the environment and caked in mud to look like a creature's den on the side of a hill. Creature indeed, made her chuckle. She carefully painted the symbols in the dust, using the blood of several creatures and a few carnivorous plants of the area. She was painted too. And then she sat in the center of the magical device and closed her eyes, crossed her legs close to her, and began to hum and chant, honing in from far away to the wards so carefully placed. He was in the kitchen, humming. It was oddly garbled, as if underwater, but she could hear reasonably well that he was talking to himself about his Voli and humming in contentment. Slowly, over the next hour, she touched mentally to each ward, activating it and tuning it to her own use, a sensory and auditory device to let her know if something was off about her Trethalis. Once attuned to her devices, she began to retract from it and paused. Something. She concentrated and listened, but at first there was nothing. Then, softly, she heard it. A hum. It was carrying across the magical connection, bouncing off something nearby. Iliad, if she was correct, and somehow it tingled and mentally sensed as part of Trath, and yet not. She tensed and retreated, keeping sense and poise on or near the awareness, and it was aware. It was not something, it was someone. And not her mentor. She felt that much, and yet familiar. She shook her head and retreated from her trance, pulling her senses from the devices. She did so slowly so as not to alert whatever was listening or watching Thalas. But it was there, and now she knew. Something sinister was there, and she was going to have to suss out what it was. It did not take long to pack up and make the trek to the nearby portal location, and she frowned, letting her mind fixate on the feel of whatever it was. She had work to do. The end.
Yeah. Interesting. So, how about anybody else do anything roleplay-ish? Yeah,
I'm role-playing a lobster.
A rock lobster?
Rock lobster?
Rock lobster. Yeah, as for me, I'm kind of in between right now. I actually, and I apologize in advance to you, Jazz, because I know we had a couple things on the burner, but I just can't do it right now.
That's fine.
I'm just not interested in logging into an MMO for some reason, and that's kind of where this has slowly been leading. But there's just nothing I don't know. I just haven't felt like it. It's, even with the role play and all that aside, I don't know. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is or where it's gone wrong. But, it is what it is. And if you don't feel like playing, it's just, the only one I logged in for really was like you and Sib and Strafay and a couple of like Ericus was in there, But now I just... something like ESO, I was having a lot of fun with it, and then I just wasn't anymore. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not like it's drastically changed. I just no, just don't feel like it anymore. I don't know. I think some of what happened with all the garbage with the PC Correct crowd has kind of put me in a damper, because it's not like regular PC correctness. Like, hey, don't call people the N-word. Like, that makes sense. Yeah, let's do that. But the whole, like, oh, you said the wrong pronoun, and now I'm offended, and I've got to deal with this for the next hour and a half because you're an idiot. That kind of thing. It gets old really quick. And unfortunately, there is definitely a contingent of that over-the-top, like, come on, really? Can you just be a normal human being? Type of a thing going on in a lot of roleplay circles these days, which is very disappointing. And maybe that's just me, but I know it's not, because they chase Jazz off too. And if you go by the stereotype, Jazz is supposed to be in that crowd. And she has common sense, so all she does is piss them off. Yeah, it didn't go well. So no, I'm just kind of in between. It's been really weird, because I've been playing MMOs now since like EverQuest 1 when I first got it. I think it was around 2000, because it was right after Kunark had come out. So it's been 20 years I've been playing one, and now I'm not. And I don't have one I really want to bounce back to, which I usually have a fallback, but even seeing Jazz go to Star Wars, The Old Republic, I was like, that sounds like fun, and then I thought about it, like, I don't want to play that. I've already played it. No, I'm good right now. Maybe in the future, but nah, I'm good. And I know I'm not the only one, because I've talked to all of you guys too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
What's the deal? I don't know what's happened, which is what we're going to go into. So,
I know I've not been doing anything at all, because of course, this is my busy season with baseball, and I think I'm baseballing every night. Except for Wednesday, and then Wednesday I have other things going on. So, I'm just doing my baseball thing.
Just not feeling it. Yeah.
Yeah. By the time I get home and get settled in, it's like bedtime.
Yeah.
Gotta go to work.
Or you just play something else. Like, I know you're still playing Fallout 76, so you just log in, do something for half an hour, and boop, bounce out.
No, I haven't even logged in to that this week. I pretty much been just.
Yeah,
nowhere.
It was the first day you've gotten a chance to before the show.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so.
That stuff.
I wonder sometimes, speaking about that, where the hell I found the time
right.
to play as much as I did.
Yeah, back in the day when you were on for for 12 hours a day. I know Jazz is on mute now, but I know when she was playing like that, that was because she had those the health issues and seizures and that weird, like, she'd basically almost pass out kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
any kind of stimulation, and I would go to sleep.
Right.
So, yeah,
Until you
I
got
immersed
that taken
myself
care
in
of.
something that was enough to keep me aware. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. When I look now, I'm like, I log in for 2 to 3 hours a night, and that's all I have. And I struggle.
And before
to do
it was
that.
like you'd be on literally almost from like 12 straight hours you could be on.
Now, granted, I was playing, but I was also running around cleaning house and stuff, and I'd come back and look because people type so goddamn slow that I could really do those things.
You weren't the healer chick off the guild that had her kids in like a dog pen, or
No,
you weren't to that stage.
No, but I also had a huge office back before my studio went to crap.
Right.
And my kids, when they were little, I had the playpen and I had the toys all over. Their toys were kept in my office. So they played with their toys and I was right there. And when I would go AFK, it'd be to feed them and we'd eat at the table.
Or
and
pull something out of their mouth that didn't belong there.
Yeah, like bugs. Yeah. So, I mean, I managed, but it was always, I look back and I'm just like, wow. I mean, I needed it and I don't feel bad about it. But yeah. It's hard to see
and
now.
I don't regret it. I don't regret my time in MMOs at all. And I in fact, it's like I said, it's almost disappointing because I love the MMOs as a genre. I just love being able to immerse yourself in that kind of fantasy, sci-fi, pick your subgenre kind of world. But man, they've really seemed, they just don't hold my interest like they used to.
They're all cookie cutters of the original old ones, and that's why this topic exists, because there's nothing new, and EQ was fun because it was new.
Especially, and even at the time, EQ2, as we're going to go over here, I mean, think of this. Put this into perspective. EverQuest came out in 99. EQ2 came out at the end of 2004. Not 5 years later, they had a sequel. It's 2019. Yeah. The only sequel they had was EverQuest Next, and it got shit-canned hard.
And the reason it got shit-canned is because all they were doing was copying a bunch of other games that were coming out, and when they realized that their game wasn't even going to be the best of the things they were copying, they let it go.
But Jazz, they had voxels.
They had the destructive. I love how
that was their draw. It's like, so you're a clean version of Minecraft. Oh,
yeah, it's just a smaller blocks version of Minecraft. That's all it was. Literally, they stole everything from Roblox, Minecraft. Now we have, because at the time, what we didn't know then, of course, with EverQuest Next was that Conan Exiles was in process. We've got half a dozen ones that are like that. Fallout 76 probably was at least apple in somebody's eye already.
Yeah. I'm sure.
So, I think they got the news and were like, well, screw this. We're not going to be first, because what's his name, who always had his head up his ass and really thought a whole lot more of his face in the mirror than he really should have, in my opinion.
John Smedley? Well, and see it at that point.
Dislike that guy.
I honestly, Smedley actually was, developer-wise, he actually is a pretty good guy. I think at that point, that was Daybreak Games and that Columbus Nova debacle. That was.
See, I disagree because I feel like this guy purposely went out of his way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we had the script kiddies and we had all that shit going on, and he's like, nothing you do bothers me. Do your worst.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's...
I was like, have you lost your mind? Did you just tell 5,000 hackers to do their... You're an idiot.
Yeah, well, that's different than him being good at directing a game, because he's the reason EverQuest 2...
He was, but at the same time...
got where it got, and then also he was the reason EverQuest 2 got where it got. He was the uphill climb, and then he was the downhill climb,
because he kept reinventing the wheel every time we had an X-Pack to put a new mark on things, and
I would use
that wasn't fun, Smedley.
Air quotes on reinventing the wheel. He thought he was reinventing the wheel,
but he was in a way, because we'd work our asses off, we'd get this nice armor, and I was fine with that. I understand it's a time sink. I had all the time in the fucking world, let's be honest. But then to turn around and make us not just, add gems to our armor or, change the stats a little bit or, okay, you're going to have to get this special little thing that goes on your armor. Oh, no. You have to start all over, and you have to harvest all new gems, and you have my god, I about
here's the thing too though, that actually can be done well, because that's literally what World of Warcraft does with almost every expansion. They almost reinvent the game on a core mechanical level, which does frustrate some people.
Yes, on a core mechanical level, but
I see, not just layering crap on top of it. Yeah, that's the difference. I mean, yeah. They thought they were doing what WoW did, but no.
My biggest issue was they should have done what WoW did. They should have gone back into their old stuff, repainted it, put a new coat of paint on it, redid the quests, rejuvenated what they already had. And that game would have gone another 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I would have jumped on...
I would have played the hell out of that game if they just would have done that. But, oh, no, we got to make new zones.
Like a modern remake of EQ1.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But they're just going to make the same zone... But you can only go in it if you're a certain level, and it was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, it was. They made so many mistakes.
And we're gonna go down most of them game by game up to a certain point. Before we do that, real quick, we got one question I wanted to ask everybody here from Grandma Gothy before the show started, and I thought it was kind of an interesting one. So let's see what you guys think. With some games like Warframe, Overwatch, or other semi-RPG/shooters
Fallout 76.
Right, Fallout 76 have had an influx of people who end up RPing in the universe despite little to no RPG elements to make such easier. Have any of you RP'd in such a game? Fallout 76.
Yeah.
That's about the only one we did, and we did that over voice. It's actually over at our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that was fun, but that is a vastly different style of role play than anything any of us were used to. But it was still fun, but it was also I don't know if I could take that kind of role play in the same serious vein, like some of the stuff that happened between you and Faye.
Well, you've also got no way to explain what you're doing. You'd have to say, okay, now she's going to do this. How do you differentiate between that when you're voice playing?
Yeah. You have to do it, like I said, you have to do it like those old radio dramas. Like,
and then she took her hand and she ran it through her hair.
I'm taking your hand and gently rubbing my hair through your... I'm Joe Bidening the back of your head right now.
Too soon. Bad. But funny.
Oh, come on. He's been a creepy old guy forever. That's what I was... I'm going to... Real quick, politics. Nobody's surprised by this. We've all seen the pictures of Joe Biden behind women. I mean... You get outraged for it, and if it made him uncomfortable, I get it. I would be totally uncomfortable too, but speak up when it happens, people. Don't just wait on it for like 15 years.
Don't wait until it's convenient to blacklist somebody.
Right. But at the same time, the memes of Joe Biden sniffing Joe Biden's own hair are absolutely fantastic. But there we go. But with politics. But things like Overwatch, man, if people are role-playing, semi-role-playing and that, I don't know how they're doing that. That's a fucking... I mean,
I do, actually. There is...
very fast-paced.
You got 5 minutes or 10 minutes to do the round, and, man, you're either doing the stuff or you're not.
Because I think that what they're calling role-play in the world, I think, is either voice or in a chat mod or writing, like we do,
like
with our journals.
That I totally get.
I think that's... I know a lot of people who play various
she was saying
games.
in the games. I'm not talking about extracurricular role play. That obvious.
Oh.
I mean, go to
Other than voice,
go
I don't
to
see how
Pornhub and look up Overwatch. There's plenty of people doing extracurricular stuff with Overwatch.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I would be surprised
There's
if there
always
wasn't
going to be
Warframe.
someone
Those
whacking
guys are
off to an
creepy.
elf or whatever.
Yeah, but in like Warframe actually makes a little more sense because it is a shooter, but the levels are a lot longer. You've got your own ship. That one I think it actually has. That one has text as well, so you can actually things out.
Yeah.
So that one I can see there. But
that makes more sense if there's some kind of text option, but when in games where there's no text option, and it blows my mind that Fallout 76 was produced without one, although it shouldn't, given what I know about Bethesda. But, yeah.
Yeah, but have we considered such a thing? Yes, Fallout 76, but would I do that as I don't think I could do that as like my go-to roleplay thing. I don't think there's a way for me to do that.
I don't think I could. No, I think that it'd have to be for MRP or something like that. I don't think it could be while you're playing the game because there's just no support for it.
Yeah, like text-based roleplay in the universe. I mean, come on, people do that with things like Doctor Who, and
There's
exists.
always going
And
to be that in Forum RP or whatever.
Yeah,
Mud
and that's
RP.
easy, but to actually do it in a game, like especially like I mean, God help you if you get on the team with those guys role playing and you're trying to actually take the take the point, and they're like, "Hi, so Winky Face," or something off of Diva or any of the new people and all that. It's slash quit. I'm here to play the game, guys, not to go creepy on it. But it's just me. And the 76 one was a lot of fun, but it's also like real life vocal roleplay is also way more exhausting than text. It was actually pretty tiring. So I don't know. I don't know how people do it. I'm sure a lot of them are younger kids too that don't, maybe
like
as
my
old
kids
people.
role play in voice all the time.
Yeah, like as we're older, and I mean, you got to think of the shit we're having to, the hump we're getting over. Whereas this stuff, we grow up, this was what you got made fun of, and it was a nerdy thing, it was stupid and childish. They're growing up where it's actually more acceptable, and they've got parents like us that are like, yeah, don't worry about it, that's cool. Are you having fun? Yeah, well, then just don't go to Pornhub and look up Overwatch. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, seriously.
That's so. I get very self-conscious about that stuff. Even when we did the stuff in the role play, we're with all of our friends that we've known for decades, and I'm married to one of them, and I was still self-conscious about it. And kids have a much easier time getting over that crap than I think us old fogies do. I'm nearing 40 here in another
We're married, not
month.
friends.
I
said we're married. We're not friends.
Love? What does love have to do with marriage? Londo, Babylon 5. Great. So, hope that answers your question, Grammy. I don't know if you've actually tried it or not, but let us know. I'd be curious to know if you've even given it a shot or if you're just generally curious. So, on with the main topic here. So, have modern MMOs basically given up? And when I say modern, I'm going to go with, really for me, the golden age of them was ended right at the time of World of Warcraft, just after that, because after that, everyone started trying to copy that. So, and with the last 10 years, there's been a few. I mean, this is a general rule. There's always a few new little things here and there, but it's typically on top of the cookie cutters that is every other mechanic. And so we're going to go through kind of the history of MMOs. It always amazes me because I forget. I like this stupid shit. I've been playing video games since the Atari. I've been playing MMOs since 2000, which is basically a year after they actually went mainstream because of EverQuest, and there was a couple before that, but they were so I've been in this, so it always amazes me, someone, 5-10 years that's been playing, they don't have any of the history of where all this entire genre of video games came from. So we're going to go over that, and we're going to kind of hit little pieces of it here and there to see how this whole thing got to where we currently are, which is not exactly a shining beacon of innovation and creative ideas. So, this has been something, like I said earlier, it's been sneaking up on me for a few years now, and I think it's just kind of coalesced with all the stuff that happened in ESO, but the MMOs, they were once like the one of the largest groundbreaking, innovative things in the gaming market, and they've just kind of given up. So, while this isn't going to be a full list, it hits a lot of the main heavyweights, which, trust me, 4 pages of notes, it's main heavyweights. There's just so many damn ones, especially if you go into the Asian market, which will hit just a nip, like the iceberg tip of those guys. Man, they pump them out like crazy. And
but and I hope this isn't racist or whatever, but
well, if you have to qualify it, you're fine. Go ahead.
Well, every Asian MMO I've ever played, it's like, man, they love pain.
They're
all just these boring grind fests,
I don't get it either, but I have to say that you're right.
It's their
I mean,
culture.
I loved Aeon, for example. I loved the character creation. I
look of
loved
it was great.
everything about it. But you got to level
gorgeous.
20, and it stopped being fun because then it was just about grinding and getting armor and grinding and grinding. This
Lineage and
incessant,
Lineage 2.
mindless grind. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I did not enjoy it, and that was the end of it for me.
Black Desert Online, even though they
Yeah, same
largely
here.
westernized it, it was still, once you get to the top level, it was a grind fest. Yeah, it's just it's a different.
The Aeon wasn't
mentality.
even max level. Aeon was 30.
No. Yeah, at least
You got to 25, 30, and
that's why I
it
said
was,
at least BDO they
quest
westernized
vanished,
it.
and you just killed shit endlessly. It was.
And then if you wanted to buy something, it was multiple millions of whatever their currency was.
Yeah.
And like you're looking at your bank account, it's like 10,000.
Yeah, and you get like 2 every time you complete a quest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to go hit the very first one, the first recognized online MMO, which is Meridian 59. Came out in December of 95. And this was actually 3D graphic based, but it was very, very rough. You got to realize 1995, like, you know, a 300, you know, not gigahertz, megahertz processor was the closest to
And
the
the
top of the line.
2400 baud modem was
And-
top of the line.
Right. Internet
Yep.
was very early on. I mean, and also, just to
Smoking
put it in
hot back then.
perspective and make Jazz feel old, 95, I was still 3 years from graduation.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, shut up.
So,
Oh, my God. I got my very first notebook computer that I ordered and put together myself in 1992.
mhm.
And I had an baud modem that I saved up for I don't know how long, just so that I could go on AOL and talk on chat.
And all
That was
and all the games came on the save icons.
Yes.
I actually saw
and-
someone the other day. Someone had I feel old thread. They had found some old floppy disks, and their little nephew or niece had come up and said, "Oh, look, you've got 3D printed versions of the save icon."
I know, right? No, I actually somewhere in my barn, because I wrote my first book by hand, and then I typed it painstakingly with a word processor, not a computer, into a word processing file on little 3.5 floppy drives, and saved it all on that. And I could get 10 not 10 pages, probably like 30 or 40 page document on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like hundreds of them, and I found them in this box, and I was like, oh my God, I kept them all. Holy crap.
Yep.
They're all here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes from Bill Gates, and I think it was somewhere in the 90s, like a brand new 500, late 90s, give or take, 512 megabyte hard drive had just come out, and he was like, yeah, I don't know that anybody will ever need more than 512 megabytes of memory.
Yeah, I know, right?
Drop the ball on that, didn't you, terabyte boy? So Meridian 59, that was really the first one, and it was exactly what you'd expect in 95. It was a difficult game. The graphics were very, very sketchy, and the connection was good luck. You know, that's the Matthew Broderick kind of era of putting your phone on a little thing, and maybe if you're lucky, you got a computer that you could plug it straight into it. Largely pre AOL even having taken off. So yeah, it was a rough period. And then we jump ahead 2 years to probably the most successful up until the next one, which was Ultima Online, September 97, whole 2 years later. And this one, actually, they did it smart because, 3D graphics, again, still very difficult. So they did the overhead isometric sprite-based thing. You could still you could play it. I think you could play this on your browser now, or then you needed a top-of-the-line computer. Now you can play it in your Chrome browser.
Yeah, I have a funny little thing about Ultima Online, actually.
Oh, yeah?
I used to play Ultima Online way back in the day, and maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago or so. Okay, sorry, let me back up. Ultima Online back then ran like shit. Like you would have your character try to run, and everything just would be really. There's lots of rubber banding, lots of lag. It was just terrible.
Right.
And so I thought, well, this is 20. Blah, blah, blah. Let's give it another go. I'm curious. So I reinstalled it, logged in, made a character, started running around. Exactly the same.
20 years later.
Yep, exactly the same. Same lag, same rubber banding, exactly the same.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, sometimes not everything gets updated. The more things change, the more they stay the same, kind of. But yeah, it was in the notes here. It was buggy as hell. It was not very user-friendly. Everything done over dial-up. Remember the, "Ma, don't pick up the phone" kind of thing.
Yep.
But still, at the same time, it created a world that you could live out your biggest nerd fantasies in a fantasy world. You could actually make a home. It was the first game that I know of that had, that had homes. And as far as I could tell in the research, there wouldn't be a contender for that for another 6 years, which would be hit EverQuest 2 in 2004.
Really?
So, yeah. Because you could make your own home right there. It was just out in the world. It could be destroyed. Yep. PvP, player killing, stealing, all that stuff. It was
you had to buy a deed for a house, and then you had to pick a plot of land, and then pay for the plot of land, and then plop your house down, if I remember right.
But nobody... It was another 6 years before somebody came along and did housing, because EverQuest doesn't have housing. The first one. So it wasn't until EverQuest 2 that they brought housing back. So this one was a big innovator. It was definitely... But at the same time, it was a product of the late 90s computer culture. It was hardcore. It was not user-friendly. It was not holding your hand. It didn't do any of the stuff that people are used to today at all. And
there was no tutorial.
Yeah, and it was unfair. It was just...
And yes, it was unfair.
Kind of like what EVE Online does. They're just like, go ahead and kill each other, or police each other, or don't. We don't care. Here's your world. The end. So, and then moving on from there, the end. You're okay. Moving on from there is, and this is arguably, at least in my opinion, probably the lead to the innovation of MMOs that polarized and allowed the entire genre to explode. I mean, it got national news coverage. It created a lot of controversy at times. EverQuest, March 1999. And what did this one was it was a true open world with amazing 3D graphics for the time. It was better than Meridian 59. It was at the time it was an online game that looked on par with a lot of the other generation of single player games. So it really did great.
Those triangle boobs.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, pointy triangle Lara Croft boobs everywhere.
Yep.
But they all had the boob window on the the Wood Elves. Yep. So in this one we had the titties. We had
Are you a little focused on this? Let's talk about it.
I see what this is what happens when you put towns and cities next to each other in the patch notes, and then you combine it, reading it really quickly. It turns towns and cities turns into titties.
What was it you were trying to say earlier that you were like, I just need a drink to get this out?
Homage?
Homage?
Yeah. I was trying to pronounce the word, and
it was hilarious.
I sounded like I was drunk.
Like, I need a drink so I can actually say this word properly.
I really couldn't.
Yes,
it was for another show topic of we're probably going to hit between when does paying homage to something turn into just blatantly ripping it off, and I could not say the word. I was like homage, home. I kept saying home over and over because I knew my tongue could not announce.
Just pretend that the H isn't there.
Homage. See, and that's what I was doing. I was overthinking it. I got it later, but and she's saying it to me. She's saying homage, and I'm like,
English is
homage. So anyway, there's a future topic we're gonna hit eventually. But
anyway, back to the titties.
So they had 3D titties, towns and cities.
Races of
3D
every...
titties, that rhymes. You're a poet now.
I know. See how I did that off the top of my head? I'm schmert. Public education. Yeah, America. Titties. Races of every fantasy variety. And they really did. They let you play the bad guys with the ogres, the dark elves, trolls, and every race had its own set of stats, which eventually they did away with because it also was some of them, like the half elves, were basically completely worthless in playing. Which first character I made was a half elf, by the way. Just putting that out there. It's completely worthless as a ranger. On top of that,
Oh, that's double worthless.
I don't even remember his name, but he was replaced by Gokuo-san because I was original. But this also was, again, this was another product of the 90s game design. It didn't hold your hand. It didn't tell you shit. The quest interface wasn't point and click, and
Oh God.
it would have certain words in the scroll chat highlighted, and you would have to type back.
No. They weren't even highlighted.
No, they weren't highlighted at first, were they? They are now.
Yeah, they are now. They
You're
weren't
right.
highlighted
They weren't at
then.
first.
You'd
So
have to walk up to someone and talk to them, and then be like, "What house?"
Yes, and you had to
Ooh,
actually.
Bob.
They wanted you to respond as if you were actually playing it. Again, this was the design at the time, which I wish in some ways they might try again, but at the same time, I don't like having to guess. And at the time, it was so limited space and what they could do. Nowadays, they might be able to have better interactions with stuff like that, but it would take a lot of programming, which we'll get into later. So EverQuest was, this was the granddaddy. This was the one that made everyone in the gaming industry turn their head and say, "Oh, so this can actually be done." And to the point where it created its own culture. It was also one of the first warning signs of what was going to come into the future, which would be online gaming addiction, getting the title of Evercrack. And what?
I just giggled. Evercrack.
Evercrack, that's right.
Yep.
And it lived up to its name. I knew of several people who ruined their lives because of the game. Now I don't blame, unlike politicians who were all over blaming the games. I don't blame the game for it. I blame, people for not being able to control themselves.
People are going to be addicted to something.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's a game or a substance.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I remember the stories. I knew some people. It did ruin some lives, just like any addiction will. If someone's addicted to gambling or drugs, given drugs has a more of a chemical component to it, as opposed to like gambling, which is also technically a chemical component, but it's all internal. Your body's making that, or it's a mental thing. But it did create a living, breathing world that had never existed before. I mean, there were a lot of role-play games, but you got to the end of it and you were done. Because there was nobody there to interact with. There was nobody to group up with and things like that yet. So people lost jobs. They lost families. I remember everybody knows Ben Stein. Ben Stein hated this game. It almost destroyed his son. He was so addicted to it, he actually sent him off to like a private academy where they did not allow any gaming or anything like that. And his son almost flushed his life. He was adamantly against it. He still talks about it to this day. And given I don't agree with his like a lot of the politicians at the time, like, we need to regulate this and cancel this and that, and it's like, no, you don't. It's not your job to protect people from themselves in that capacity, and making a law isn't gonna stop somebody from, so they're not addicted to gaming. All right, well they'll be at the casino, or if you're
and really, how do you police
shooting
that?
up heroin.
How do you even police that? Like,
Right.
You can't hire an officer to stand over somebody's shoulder.
Well, you'd have to ban it. That's
24/7.
You'd have to stop. It's the same thing they tried to do with Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat, as I was watching a thing, and I was watching the old hearings on it, because I'm just that kind of fun-loving guy. Sib really lucked out when she married me. Between this and the Flat Earth movie I was watching, which
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
45 minutes of me shouting at the TV.
I saved him from himself last night.
I'm going to finish
brought home-
watching that. I'm finishing watching it. It was
I brought
fascinating.
home Creed, and we watched Creed.
Creed 2
after
was a
I
great
got done
movie.
baseballing.
But yeah, so that's why we have the ESRB. Was the government came in and were like, it's too bloody and it's destroying the very fabric of our country and young minds everywhere. Vote for me because I really don't give a shit about these fucking people. But if I look like it, you'll vote me back because at least I look like I'm busy.
Yeah, every generation needs their scapegoat.
Yep. Before that, it was rock.
Ours was, I think,
Elvis Presley
definitely
with
video
his
games.
thrusted hips. The Beatles, who were bigger than Jesus. All that. It's just pick it. And they're still poking at video games, despite the fact that the majority of research shows, there's no correlation between violence and video games. A lot of times that they're already crazy little fucks.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? So, yeah, Ben Stein, I don't agree with him, but yeah, he railed. He still rails on it. And it's like, dude, it's 20 years. Let it go. It's okay. But, like this, and this is the age from EverQuest to a certain point. This is what I think of this as like, this is the golden age of MMOs. This is when there were a lot of really solid releases. There were a lot of really not so solid releases, as we'll get into, but at least they were trying something different. They all tried to bring they tried to make their own game instead of copying everything EverQuest did. Which
I have a question.
Oh no, sorry.
No I'm questions. Curious.
No
and
questions.
This is a good point to interject with this question.
Yeah.
For you guys, when was the last time in an MMO that you went over a hill or turned a corner or opened a door or something and just had your breath taken away with something completely new and something that just blew you away?
Like just like graphically even?
Not even like, okay, for example, for me that would be when Echoes of Fador came out. And I made this little fairy, which I love fairies.
Right.
Knows that. And like I remember zoning into Greater Feydark, hearing the music, and I remember going over that hill and seeing Kelethan again for the first time. And that would be that moment for me that just kind of blew me away. Like, wow, this is...
Seeing it updated.
Yeah.
From the foggy, hard to see 5 pixels per tree, or 5
that we used to
per tree.
Throw halflings off of, yeah.
Yeah. Oof, man. Gosh, I never really got that from ESO.
Mine was an EQ too, so.
Yeah.
When I took Vodka to Neriac for the first time.
The actual Neriac or the third gate one that was first in there?
I went back to EverQuest 1 and played because I wanted to learn more about Dark Elf lore. And I wanted to understand where Vodka came from. So I did all the quests in the Dark Elf area. And then I came back. So when Neriac came out, it was cool to see the homage paid to Neriac. And it wasn't the same, and that was obvious. But at the same time, when you're standing there and you're looking at the, where it goes all the way down and, and the big castle, and you're just like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That is really amazingly done. It just, I was standing there looking at the castle from a distance on my horse on Vaca and was like, that's pretty cool. I just had to sit there and look at it. And the one when you sit on top of the Kelethan and you look out at the from on top of the city and you look out. Those are the two places where I think I was just the most amazed.
Yeah, and the Kelethan one for sure, but I don't know that that's the most recent. I think the most recent was probably, funny enough, I think it was actually Star Wars: The Old Republic, and not doing anything on the planets because the planets were pretty cookie cutter, and they were pretty, but the stupid transport in Fleet when you go from like the fleet to one of the massive Star Destroyer ships in your flying, it's autopilot. You're not flying.
but seeing the distance and all the stars and it really looking like you're flying between one ship and the other on a shuttle, I think that's the last, wow, that's really cool kind of moment I can remember in an MMO, and that's been a while.
I have one of those kinds of moments in just about every game.
Yeah.
In Tor, it was Nar Shaddaa.
Yeah, the city.
Yeah, when you're looking out at it from the lower promenade.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazingly done. I loved Tor.
Yeah, they did do a
Nar
good
Shaddaa.
job.
It's one of my favorite places, even though it's filthy and you can tell it's filthy.
Yeah.
But it just looked so real. I felt like I was there.
Yeah.
And that was, at that moment, it was just like, wow, this is cool. And in ESO, it was, gotta think.
See, for me, nothing in ESO really stands out at that
There's a couple
point.
places where
They're
I was
neat,
leveling
but I don't
that
remember
were
being
really
like
nice. But no, there's nothing that
floored.
just like
I-
in Guild Wars 2 it was what's it called? Divinity's Reach, when you're standing on this hill looking at Divinity's Reach.
That's a pretty good place. What are you saying, Sib?
I was gonna say mine was the one I can remember the most is in ESO, but it was a graphical one. When it was like morning time, and I was running into Rift, and the sun was coming over, and it was like a hazy. I actually took a picture of it. It was beautiful, and I was just like, "This is a game."
Yeah, and it
This
looks
is
really good.
amazing. This is crazy how good it looked. But that's the one I can remember the most, and the most recent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a little while for me, really, because even...
Yeah, same here. Like nothing since then has really grabbed me as tightly
Yeah.
as I think EQ2.
Yeah, because I've seen some really nice stuff in, like, even Fallout 76. Given there's just certain times of day, like if it's just foggy and the sun's rising, they do some great, like God rays and things like that with the sun. And ESO it does have a lot of really good looking place, but like floor me to the point of it being memorable like that. I don't have. Even in Final Fantasy 14, there's. Nothing really comes to mind in that game at all.
Nothing in Final Fantasy was.
It was all pretty. It's all pretty, but there's nothing
Yeah.
like wow.
But it
I
wasn't
didn't feel
that
like I was
moment-
there. I didn't.
Yeah.
I've never felt like I was in a game like I did in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
Guild Wars 2 did that the best. When you run the grass parts, it moves.
Mm-hmm.
You stand there and you leave. It was the first game I played that left footprints when you ran through the
Right.
snow. I was fascinated by that. I was like, look.
It's my foot.
And it was
Yeah.
the first time I had shadows on and it didn't lag my game. So I was able to enjoy having shadows and feeling more a part of the game. But EQ always felt more solid and real to me.
Yeah.
I've never been in a game since where I really felt like I was there.
Yeah,
EQ
and I think
was
that's
the first one that ever did that.
Yeah, and for me, for EverQuest too, that was just because I had such a tight connection with Norath and all that other stuff too. But they did do a good job. I always had the complaint, for me at least, with EQ2 that they didn't go fantasy enough. Like they could have built things up a little bigger and not kept everything quite so realistically grounded. Like fantasy stuff, like the Tolkien stuff in the movies that they do for Lord of the Rings. It looks human made, but yet at the same time, it's also over the top and massive. So, it's been a while. It really has. We got Grandma Gothy says, for me it was Wildstar. The rolling landscapes were always so vibrant and alive. I miss Wildstar. I liked the look of it, but I think they shot themselves in the foot in a lot of ways too. And Eric says, for me it was Guild Wars 2 when they redesigned Lion's Arch after its destruction in one of its past events. The new music and the scenery they showcased literally made my jaw drop. So
I gotta admit that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but kind of both of those older, been a while.
Wildstar's the newer one, I would say.
No Wilds, yeah. Well, no,
Yeah,
even Wilds.
It was newer. It was newer than Guild Wars 2, but it wasn't like. I mean, it's not like super new. Are you looking at
Yeah,
up?
I was
Which one
trying.
was first?
I have it on here, and it came out in 2011.
Well, when did Guild Wars 2 come
Oh
out?
no, 2014.
2014. It was unveiled in 2014. So yeah, that's probably the newest one. And that's
Yeah.
and sadly, it's already closed down, which is going into why MMOs aren't innovating. And they tried some new. They did, at least WildStar did try a few new things, like they did the guns and the shooting, but even that wasn't fully new because Age of Conan had already done the not a single target enemy thing. They just kind of perfected it, but they also did a lot of, they dropped the ball on a lot of other stuff, like fun. So, all right, so going on from EverQuest here, we're going to hit the late 90s, early 2000s. Had a lot of them. The next kind of big one, and some of these I didn't, well, actually a lot of these I didn't play. Asheron's Call was November 99. It was actually, if I remember right, it was fairly popular. It did real well. I don't know a ton about it, though. Anarchy Online, I do know. That was the first of the sci-fi MMOs, and also Funcom's first jump into the genre of MMOs, which they're still banging around. They're at about the exact same level of... They basically peaked with Anarchy, and they've basically stayed there or lowered ever since, at least in most people's opinions. They have some good games. You know, they've got Secret World. I think they're the Conan people, aren't they? I think they do Conan. Yeah.
Huh?
Funcom, they're the ones that made the
Funcom. Yeah, they do Secret World.
Yep, Secret World.
The thing with Secret World and Roleplay, there's a ton of Roleplay in Secret World, but it's literally all in Europe.
Yeah. And the game
is... Like, I couldn't find any Westerners, any Americans, or anything.
And the game is clunky. They make very clunky games. They are not smooth at all.
It's a little clunky, yeah.
Yeah. One that...
Yeah, I did not enjoy it.
No. One that was... And this was the first of the... I give them points for innovation. Motor City Online. Because when you think of MMOs, who doesn't think of you're a car? It's basically Cars Online. It was from October 2001 and made it all the way until 2003 before it was shuttered. So it's not exactly a success, but at the same time, they were trying something new. That you basically collected like American muscle cars. You would race them against other people online all the time in their little virtual world, etc., etc. It was trying something new, and I think it's actually they ended up canceling it because it led into the Need for Speed series. I forget the makers of that, but it's those same guys. So they got the idea for Need for Speed from Motor City Online and just kind of took it console-wise. The next big one, I think... You and Faye, make a lot of noise. The next big one here was Dark Age of Camelot, October 2001. And not just because it had capes was it popular, which, seriously, I remember October 2001. EverQuest had already been out for 2 years now. And a huge draw for all the EverQuest people was that Dark Age had capes. You could wear a cape.
Yep.
And given this cape was basically just a square polygon, but it was a cape, and you could wear it, and that was a huge thing. But it also was the one that brought the first real good PvP scale with their realm versus realm. They had the 3 realms, none of which I remember at this one. I think one of them may have been the Dark Age, the other one and then there was Camelot. Those were the 3 realms. And they would go on to massive battlefield. It was kind of, you get a lot of that stuff. ESO kind of has that basically now, but they were the first to do that all the way back in 2001. And again, glitchy, god-awful mess most of the time because 56 baud modems, I think, were out at this point, but everyone was connecting through AOL. You had your 250 hours that you could convince your mom. You were creating new accounts every time you got the CDs in the mail.
Yep.
God,
was that the one where the factions could like siege each other and?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was the one with sieges, and yep, that was.
I vaguely remember that.
That was the realm versus realm, but mostly it was all about the capes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Role player. I wasn't role playing by then yet, but I know role players and non-role players were real big on the capes. So, and then came May 2002, Final Fantasy XI, and their god awful interface to get into the play online store or their play online. God, that was a mess. They still have to use that. It's so desperately integrated into the code they can't get away from it, despite how much they would. Boy, that was bad. The game itself, though, was actually kind of a surprise because it's Square Enix, who was riding high on the time from Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy X was a huge success. But them bringing Final Fantasy to an MMO was both. Everyone was surprised. Nobody expected that. Nobody really expected somewhere to bring a huge series like that into an online continual thing. And while it was a really good MMO, and I know a lot of people that played it back then, they loved it, man. They'll sing its praises to this very day. It was very group oriented. After level 5, you basically had to group up to go almost anywhere. Not to mention, they made the weird choice of putting Japanese and English based players together with a completely iffy 2002 translator. And keep in mind, I don't think Google was even a thing yet.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that must have
been
been
even
fun.
it was not what it is today. The kind of mega monster that it can.
I remember
can be.
when Google came out, and it was just one of many.
Yeah. Dogpile, Ask Jeeves, there was a lot of them out there before.
That's great.
Ask Jeeves, AOL.
Yeah, Yahoo, which is still banging around. Bless its soul, it's so cute. But that translator, I still have a copy of it banging around here somewhere, and that translator was, man, that was rough. But it did something not done before, and that was released on consoles like the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360, which basically tripled, its availability to people. You could actually play these online on your console for the first time, and that was a big kick in the pants for Final Fantasy XI. It really helped it keep its longevity and kind of showed people online gaming really has more than first-person shooters. So, to skip a few here, we'll go with Earth and Beyond, which is another sci-fi one. Asheron's Call 2, only 3 years later after 1. Shadow's Bane, and I'm skipping these because I don't have a lot of personal experience other than I was aware of them and I knew a little bit about them. Until we get another really big jump in innovation in MMO design that is still strong and fascinating, even by today's standards, and that's EVE Online, May 2003. And most of you probably know EVE Online. If you don't, that's why we're doing this. But it's the one, man, if you've never tried it, or like me, you tried it for 5 minutes and realized, oh, hey, I already have a full-time job. I don't need to play this. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. But still, in ever expanding and seemingly infinite space where the rules only apply if you can enforce them yourself, it created something that's not really been seen before or really since, at least in an MMO. And the company CCP Games has a very hands-off approach to their game. And when it comes to the player interaction, which is definitely something that had not been done before. EVE, I mean, the people that play that game, they are a dedicated player base. And
it's almost, well,
oh yeah,
not even almost. It is a society all of its own.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it happens in a lot of MMOs, but you and Faye, I've seen people get married. Someone got married and they used the in-game religion as part of their ceremony. They were all dressed up like the people from the game, things like that. But the stories that we've done here every now and then, or when they pop up of multiple tens of thousands of dollars in theft, and from something or somebody does this, or some epic battle that costs $150,000 of real world, adjustable coin. It's an amazing experience. It's something I love watching from the outside. I just could not get into it, and I definitely don't have the time for it. But EVE, and it's 2003, May. It's almost, I'm horrible at math, so what is that, 16 years? Maybe, give or take? I don't know.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, give or take. So, and it's going strong, and they've done a lot of updates. They've done a lot of really great things with it, but they definitely innovated something new. And a note from Yunfei. What is it? EVE Online is basically Second Life for space nerds.
Yep.
Yunfei. So moving on from there, we get PlanetSide 2, May 2003, which was actually the first FPS MMO. Space guns, massive PvP battles, all taking advantage of growing popularity of FPS and first-person shooter games from some game called Halo that had released. Yeah, according to this, it says Halo was released 2 years before that. Halo, yeah. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Halo. I mean, it's not, too bad given how FPS games were. They're kind of still around today, so it was probably a good idea for them, to try that. But yeah, and I think Halo was one of the first games. Sib, you
Halo, you're gonna
What?
drive me crazy.
What? Oh,
Halo.
Halo. Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. If I remember right, too, Sib told me stories with her ex that he stopped playing with her.
Yes.
He would get mad because she would kill him.
I was banned from sticky grenades.
Sticky grenades.
I was not allowed to be a sniper. I couldn't sit and just snipe him. He's like, you gotta move around. Why?
Why? I'm killing you, ain't I?
Oh, funny.
I had two maneuvers. One was the here, hold this. And the other one was the hey, give me a hug.
Yep.
That was when someone threw a sticky grenade on me and I'd just run right up in their face.
Yep. Our son does that to her every now and then when they would play.
Call of Duty. We were playing that one time, and he said, "Mom, I want to try something out." I'm like, "Okay, cool." It's like, "What do you want me to do?" He goes, "Okay, when I tell you to run, you just run right in there." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, all ready. He goes, "Okay, run." And I take off running, and I blow up along with everybody that he was trying to kill, like 5 people. And I'm like, "Did you just blow me up?" And he goes, "It worked."
So good.
I was like, "Thanks a lot, man."
Yeah, and this is given he's 16 now. This was some time ago, so he's a little turd head then. Now
I
he's just a
laughed
big
so
turd
hard.
head.
No, I just don't play with him. I'm like, no, I'm not using me as your guinea pig.
Mm-mm. I'm not your bomb disposal unit. Do it yourself. So, all right, moving on from Halo.
Halo.
So good.
Halo.
Get one near and dear to my and Strafe's heart. Star Wars Galaxy.
Man, I have only heard good things about it until the NGE. And every time you mention the NGE, that player, yeah, they get so sad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it was awful.
I never got a chance to play it, but like apparently it was
amazing.
Absolutely
It
amazing.
really was. And it was far from a perfect game. It definitely had a lot of problems at the start. But it actually it was this one. This was where we reintroduced player housing. 2000. I think that was. Oh, I didn't write that in here. I think that was 2003, 2004. I want to say
It wasn't there before. You must have deleted it.
Yeah, I might have. No, well. But yeah, so we went all the way from Ultima Online up until Star Wars Galaxies before we got player housing again. And this wasn't like player housing like we have today where everything's insist. No, this player housing, you put your little house down out in the world where everybody else could see it. And if you could put it in there with your guild, make little cities and towns and things like that out in the world that people could visit. Completely customizable. There was no instancing for the house. If you wanted to go to someone's house, you had to, know where they actually lived and physically go to their house to get in. In creating the cities and things like that and virtual real estate, and they had things. The leveling system wasn't. It was kind of reimagined. It wasn't the old everything up to this point. Basically, it's like 1 through 50. they went with the skill tree progression, where you had so many areas of this tree that you could go through and create your character how you wanted to create it. And at that, you hit a level, and you could, usually do one or two main classes, and then part of another one, or you can mix and match. And there was all sorts of things that people did, but you could lead the cities and be mayors and be elected and charge taxes and all this stuff. But one thing they also did that I don't think has ever been done since was they created something for dancers in music to buff yourself. Like, that was a class. Dancing and playing music was a class.
I don't think anyone has ever done that since.
Mm-mm.
Not like that.
Yeah, well, and we all know the game. We all know buffs. You boop, cast a spell, you're buffed. You've got your clarity of mind or whatever it is, or spirit of the wolf, and now your little gross little halfling feet move 5,000 miles an hour. But this was, you would level up through people watching you. You would dance in the cantinas, and as people watched you, they would get buffs, and you could advance through your skill tree as you got experience. And you could literally just have a character that was nothing but a tavern dancer. And actually, it wasn't a roleplay thing, it was part of the game mechanics. That was your job. That's what you wanted to do with your time. And even non-role players, they would sit there and they would chat with people in the taverns. People would, it was interactive. And
even if people didn't roleplay, they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really cool.
Yeah, and people would tip them. They made money. They were able to, and this is how you got your buffs. This is how you would actually hope for dancers that had actually gone high into the skill trees so that you could get longer lasting, stronger things. But that was the entire. They didn't fight anything. They couldn't care. They couldn't go out and throw blasters at people or hit someone with a rancor, which was the weird pet class where you actually could have people traveling with rancors behind them, like they're chihuahuas that are 3 feet tall.
When you said hit someone with a rancor, I just pictured someone picking one up and throwing it at someone.
Take that. But yeah, I mean, it did a lot of really great and innovative stuff. And again, it was a buggy, glitchy mess, especially at the start, and eventually got wiped out by the NGE when they tried to, funny enough, after World of Warcraft, and then they tried to homogenize it and make it like all the other MMOs, and then it suffered its own downfall. And moving on from there, which is another new entry and something brand new, City of Heroes, April 2004. May it rest in peace. The customization in this game was like fucking just out there. Like, nobody has ever hit customization like they've done. I mean, since, and this is 2004, so the sheer amount of options that they had you could create a character was insane. Really was. I do still remember, like, when a character out, you get for your travel, you could like teleport, you could super Hulk jump, fly. Obviously, I picked fly because who doesn't like to fly? And I still remember how cool it was to actually, in a big online world, fly around and you would see other players, zipping past you, or web slinging, I think was one of them, or I might be confusing that with another game, but I think they had something like that. It was also one of the first times for MMOs that the closure was really, really controversial. And, just like you were saying, Yudfei, with Star Wars Galaxies players getting sad, you bring up City of Heroes to a hardcore City Hero player, it's just anger. Just anger. They just shut it down, like almost out of nowhere. It was, and their excuses were basically like, yeah, we shut this one down hoping you'll go to the new Guild Wars 2. Or it was financially or it wasn't financially viable. Was like there were so many excuses, none of which made any sense, because it had a massive and very dedicated group of players. I mean, there was nobody that didn't want to. If they were playing this game, they were there. They were hardcore about it. They loved the game, And it was a fun game. It didn't stick with me. Again, EverQuest 2 was getting ready to come out, so it didn't last long for me. But the City of Heroes guys, man, they love that. And that's why to this day there is a large contingent of MMO players out there that won't touch anything created by NCSoft. So they didn't go to Guild Wars 2, they went anywhere else.
I think they shot themselves in the foot. What they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, because Guild
Like
Wars,
with a shotgun.
yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, like nothing left, just a stump.
Was
Yeah.
that Sib?
I said it's really sad how many games actually do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, and it was about this point where that starts happening more and more.
Yeah.
So, and here's the other biggie, because this is why I didn't stick with City Heroes. EverQuest 2, November 8th, 2004, although I will say I didn't stick with it. I did 6 months, and then I stopped playing because it needed a lot of work, and then I came back when the Soga models came out, which the Soga models were the
Awful.
Korean? Was it Korea?
I think so, yeah.
Korea, yeah, made them. And she says it was awful, but honestly, I don't think I would have gone back if it wasn't for
I
them.
hated them because they all looked exactly alike. There was no way to make them look any different than anybody else.
Nah,
They were
you knew
ridiculous.
who Xanis was. He's a good-looking dark elf. That's
Because I looked at him in non-Soga. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, so you got him seeing like retarded Michael Jackson post-surgery.
I love the way you made your character.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy. No, why would you say that? So
I liked Xanis in non-Soga. Thank you. And I had to harangue you to get you to fix your character because you just wanted to fix Soga.
well, I never looked at it. So when like they did a reset, I didn't know things got changed until you told me.
So he looked at himself. It was really funny.
It's like, ugh.
Oh my god! Why didn't you tell me? I thought you knew.
Yeah, so but think of this for a moment. As what I said earlier, 2004, only 5 years after EverQuest 1, and EverQuest 1 still, honestly, I'm going to say it's probably stronger than EverQuest 2 at this point. I would almost bet you it's probably got more players than EQ2. I have nothing.
What does?
EverQuest, the first one, probably still has more players
probably
than EQ2.
at this point. At least it has more role players. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. It's just and they've not done it since. And a lot of these MMOs, they've not done sequels. And I think part of that is because they don't have any new ideas, and also the market is completely saturated. But so this was the next This and the next one are like where I consider the end of the golden age of MMOs. This is in my mind where it starts to get real repetitive in a lot of the things and ideas, and they just start regurgitating the same thing over and over.
Well, real quick. EQ2 also was special to me because it is, as far as I know, the only MMO where you can play a fairy.
That's true.
That's not an Asian MMO. You're probably right. You'd probably have to go to one
even
of those
Asian
crazy.
MMOs.
I can't
can't
think of
find
anyone.
any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean like one of the ones that didn't get transported over here, that kind of thing. Like that's you'd have to go that deep down the rabbit hole to find one. It's probably called like Play a Fairy MMO.com or something like ridiculous. It's made by like 8 people in their basement. But no, you're right. Yeah, they really don't have, and it was.
And like that's the only thing now that makes me want to go back is like, and I know it's going to sound dumb to some people, I miss like the fluttering of those pretty wings.
Yeah. Is there
Sound dumb.
The fluttering gave me a headache, but I did.
Oh,
I loved playing an Erisai a great deal.
So
And I still think about going back to EQ from time to time.
Yeah.
Because EQ2. Because I have the guild hall, I have a set role play, I have everything there, and too much money for reason. And all of us are going to end up role playing with each other anyway, so why not just go back? But then I remember all the toxic people that are all still there.
yeah.
And I remind myself, no, let's go look at Tor.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's a quick
But I
question.
thought about it.
Is there, I mean, there's a few games where you can fly, like Aeon, you got wings, you can fly.
Is there another game where you're just a character, kind of like the RSI, where you just like it's a constant hover, like that?
No.
Grandma Gothy?
Grandma Gothy.
Grandma Gothy. They said Trove has fairies?
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't even know what Trove is.
Trove is
I don't either.
Yeah, she's right. It's a Minecraft Rift kind of a mix of an online game. Like it's like that.
You should go check it out then, because it probably has something you'll have fun with.
Yeah, it's definitely got. It's more on the Minecraft sort of blocky look to it.
Oh yeah. I see.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. I never got it. I couldn't get into them. I never got into the Minecraft or Minecraft-esque type of games. That's just a personal thing with me. I get impatient and bored really quickly with that.
She said it's a decent game, fun to play with kids.
Oh, there you
or
go.
with your kids.
So you'll have Ben.
Not when your kids stick grenades to you and say, run.
Yeah. Here's a pickaxe, run into him.
I mean, he's too old now. He's mean, so.
Yeah, he's a mean old man. But yes, EverQuest 2.
To be fair, it was a good tactic.
It was a good tactic. I was mad because I didn't think of it.
Of course, the second time they try it, she just died alone. But still, it was a good tactic once. But yes, EverQuest 2 was a big one. It brought back housing. Eventually, did it right. At the beginning, it was rough. But probably these days, it probably has the best housing in any MMO ever, just because of the sheer number of things you could do. I mean, Sib fucking built houses from the ground up using...
It was addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was.
resizing the walls to something you could...
Hours.
It really brought out the creativity in a lot of... Or the, I guess, architectural creativity in a lot of people, where they would use what they had to make... Like, before... I don't know if were fireplaces by the time I left, but like people would build their own fireplaces just out of like walls and bars
now,
and stuff like
people
that.
were paying people to build them homes. I mean, in-game money, they would give up.
Yep.
A ton of the
millions
or platinum.
Yeah.
So they could have a really nice house built and designed. I mean, it was amazing. I actually got paid once to do a house, but I only did it once because I was like, okay, it's not fun when it's for somebody else.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Yeah, because you have to go by what they want, but I loved the housing.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, and that's why I hope ESO eventually gets there, because they have the same style, but they're not nearly as far along. Like, you can't...
What will save ESO is if they increase the amount of people that are allowed in a house.
Yes.
And then
they don't do that, it's never going to go anywhere.
No, it will never.
Because the role players are just going to give up and go to someplace else.
Yeah, even when
how are you supposed to run a guild hall?
When a guild can only have 24 people,
How many people does a guild have? 500? And you can only put 24 people in a guild, in a house? That's just retarded. I mean, and I don't use that word lightly.
No, you don't. Which I know the second you said it, I'm like, wow, she's really upset.
That's, I mean, I can't, there's the C word and the R word. Are the two words I don't say very often, and they both apply here.
Yeah, retarded.
No, I totally agree.
Pull their head out of their ass because it's ridiculous. How can you, it'd be different if a guild could have 25 people.
Right.
Okay. Fine.
Or even if it had a max of like 50, because then you're like, well, that's 50% of people logged in. That's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, that's hard to do. So that's fine. Or even a third. But 500 people?
Shoot, even if they give you, if they let 100 people in, that'd be...
If they would let it have like 100, 150 max, and if I had to buy it in their store and it cost me $100 in real life money, I would totally do it.
I know you would.
I would save my money and I would buy that key, and that would be that. And I can't even imagine why they don't do that. It's just mind-boggling.
That one,
okay.
That one,
Done
when it first came out, it blew me away because we were all going to this guild event, and like we were out in the world, and we all tried to go in this house, and it was like
it wasn't even a housing house; it was just a house.
No,
out
it was
in the world.
a random house out in the world, and like people could not. I think it was like
6. We got 6 or 7 people.
Or 12. I thought it was.
It wasn't even. No, we got.
No, it was just 6. But yeah, and so it was like, what is going on? Why can't? And so only 6 people could be involved in the role
Yeah.
play.
Out of
Yeah.
like 30 or 40 of two
Yeah.
guilds that were there and had traveled for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And this was Servants of the Temple back with Sabea, and it wasn't their fault. They didn't know the game was new. It was barely a month old,
Yeah,
so
it
this was the
it
biggest
had just
event
come
anyone
out.
had done. And boop, everyone just fucked off after that. So yeah, and
Stuff
ESO,
like that, if they would fix it, it would make a huge difference in the game. To role players, but of course we're not the more important one.
yeah, I don't know. Mm-mm. Well, I mean, EverQuest 2, we were a very small contingent, but they still added things like the resizing items smaller or bigger. You know, all that stuff makes a big difference, and not to mention the variety of materials you can make walls out of. Like ESO, I think like they're still just with those shitty planks, and you can make stuff out of it, but it looks like shitty planks of wood.
I think that's because the dev that was in charge of that was actually a role player. She was actually in. I don't want to out her, but she was in a familiar guild.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm pretty sure she, like everybody else over at EQ2, no longer works there.
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't talked to her in years.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going off of everybody else they laid off or has quit since. Chances are 99% they're probably not there anymore, which is sad. But yes, EverQuest 2 it did a lot of really good things. It took what it learned from the first one and it made them better. Given not right off the bat, a lot of the problems at the beginning of it were they had like 8 sets of armor. It was pretty bleak. You all looked exactly the same, even high level. I mean, it did get better, definitely, but at the beginning it was, it was rough. So,
oh god, those dresses though.
Yeah, and those awful
They're
dresses.
so horrible.
Oh, and anybody remember the small controversy? They used to have rolling on the floor, ROFL, rolling on the floor laughing, and they took that emote out and they've never returned it because when women in those dresses would roll around on the floor laughing, it would hike up and it would show their undies.
Oh yes! Oh no! Clutch pearls.
I know.
Because they had it was
Panties
one of
are scary.
first games with the quote unquote realistic cloth where it would fold around them. So yeah, it would glitch out up around their hips, very very wide, plasticky hips. And so they took that one out, and it's funny enough, even after they fixed that, they never returned that emote to anybody. It was just gone. I don't know if they deleted the whole thing or what, but it's gone. It never showed up again. And moving on now to the granddaddy of all of them, probably the true age of the Golden Age, World of Warcraft, November 23rd, 2004. And what's funny is how many people don't remember that EverQuest 2 and World of Warcraft came out within 2.5 weeks of one another. And why is it that they don't remember that? Because for all the good things EverQuest 2 did, it was rushed. And while World of Warcraft...
They wanted to come out first, and so they rushed the game and screwed it up.
Yeah, and World of Warcraft, don't get me wrong, not perfect. Had a lot of problems. You want to know why I can tell you it had a lot of problems? Because you could ask the 1,000+ people constantly waiting in a queue just to log into the game for hours and hours at a time, only to have it crash and things like that. But as brand new games go, kind of not a bad problem to have that many thousands of people are trying to get in. And keep in mind, too, this was, you think World of Warcraft has a lot of servers now. They were adding them, just almost dozens at a time over these first couple years. They couldn't keep up with the demand for new shards or servers or whatever it is they call them. And WoW went, it went a totally different direction development-wise from all the other ones that came before it, including EverQuest 2, which eventually got there. And what it did different was it learned and it watched what all of those that had come before it for the last 5 years had done, and given it had a really good popular IP, but not everybody played Warcraft. I still have never played a game of Warcraft. I know of World of Warcraft, though, and I've played it. But it learned. It learned and did what
other games had never tried or thought to do. And so, for quick reference, too, you got to remember, we all have our computers these days, but this is 2004, close to almost 2005 now at this point. So, top-of-the-line computer, we're sporting a hefty, massive Intel 800 megahertz to 1.3 gigahertz Celeron M processor. 800 megahertz. Meg, not gig, meg. And it had a whopping 512 kilobytes of cache memory in that. And the NVIDIA GeForce 6800 Ultra, which it's hard to do these because the architectures have changed so much, but we'll go off the one thing everybody does know, had a massive and vast, biggest you could get at the time, 512 megabytes of virtual RAM, not DDR2 or 3, or I think we're up to 5 now. Just regular old, that was what they had, 512 megabytes of RAM. You probably download games on your cell phone bigger than this thing had, graphically powered.
More than likely, yeah.
Right? I mean, it was a 16-pipe architecture kind of thing. So to put that into perspective of where we're at today, the average processor is usually between 3 and 4 gigahertz. And give or take, I know we're like a 3.4 both of our computers. Some people spend more. Some people are just like 2.9. Depends on the chip as well. But just on average, as a quick and dirty sort of test, and they like the GeForce 1080, which is, I know they got the 2000s now, but the GeForce 1000 range from like 1070, 1060 is kind of where a lot of people are at. Those are anywhere from 4 to 16 gigs of RAM. So just the 4 would be 8 times more, and that's not even counting the new architecture that these things all have, which make them run multiple dozens, if not hundreds of times faster than the previous versions. So it's kind of like, it's kind of the jump that makes going from like what the Ultra was, the 6800 Ultra, would seem like kind of a mentally challenged hamster compared to what we have today, is what you were running all your graphics off of. I mean,
yep. But that hamster tried so hard.
He was adorable. And I especially loved how they put the little bike helmet on him. It's very cute, but he is also extremely slow. So why is this any of this technical babble matter? It's all for perspective. Because most games, almost anything you get on a modern gaming console are probably going to run good for the next 5 years plus, and that's usually even maxed out. But in 2004, not so much. So what WoW learned was style over graphics. WoW could basically run on a toaster oven, and it still looked really good. It was kind of like the difference when you would load up EverQuest 2, for example. Again, 2 weeks before that, they were released the same month. And World of Warcraft, if you had them both at max settings, it was the difference between watching a slideshow in science class and a Disney animated movie.
Yep.
It was.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that ran EQ2 on max settings.
Mm-mm.
Not at the beginning, no.
Even now, it's still
I can now, but
yeah, and it's still it can still be a glitchy mess and lag out.
I can too, but
because of the way they made it.
Yeah, like the shadows are ugly and
I turn off the shadows. Period.
I just turn them off.
Can't stand them. They're just
There
horrible.
you
I don't
go.
know what EQ never learned how to do shadows. They just never did.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
they
So
did,
I just shut them off.
I know what they did. They said it at the time, and a lot of people don't remember this. They said we've future-proofed our game for computer gaming computer games systems that aren't even out yet and probably won't catch up to our technology for another 5 to 10 years. So most computers won't be able to run it graphically at full scale, but they will be able to in the future. Ha! Take that, animated World of Warcraft. Unfortunately, what they didn't realize is gamers kind of like to see those sliders all the way to the top, and when they don't get there, they don't like that. And,
I get salty if I can't run a game at top.
Mm-hmm. Or damn close to it, yeah. And it was done so. I was also done so piss poorly, which is why EverQuest had such a hard time.
They had
adapting.
such memory leaks in that game.
Mhm.
They still
Yeah.
do. They never
Still to
fix
this day,
that.
could never fix it. Yep. And so that was the big difference. World of Warcraft learned, and they made it so it could run on anything, and they made it accessible. The game, it didn't need to take hours away from work to make it a challenge. Like you could log in, have some fun. And at the beginning, they did have like the Spirit Corpse Run thing. But it wasn't the corpse runs of old where, hey, we died in the Plane of Nightmares. So then 5 hours later, hopefully we can get all our gear back and it won't be completely lost and disappeared forever.
And that's if you didn't lose the level that got you into
right. Yep.
In there.
There was that. So the quests were easier to get around. The world was large. It was colorful. Cities felt like, cities. Kind of really the only thing I think to this day that World of Warcraft has really dropped the ball on, housing. They still don't have housing, but apparently they don't really have huge.
Well, the people that play WoW don't care. I think that if the people who play WoW actually cared, they probably would have developed it. But if the people statistically that play WoW don't care about housing.
Yeah.
They don't play it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So
could be.
Role players are even lower percentage there than they are anywhere else.
And it's because
it's MMO,
because it has such a mass appeal,
Yeah.
Can I tell you about my very, very first day in World of Warcraft?
Sure.
I made...
You're on mute, baby.
I made, I forget what they're called. The elves. The pretty elves with the red hair and... I think
Night elves?
Horde side. Not night elves, the other ones.
The Blood Elves?
Blood elves, yeah. And I logged in, and I was just, getting situated with the UI and stuff. And there was a bunny hopper hopping around me. First message I got was a tell from this guy, hey, want a cyber? That was my very first minute in World of Warcraft.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's not surprising at all. So yes, moving real quick before we go on a few more little things here. There's one other that happened just after this by about a couple months, which I liked, and almost nobody else has ever played. Matrix Online, March 2005. Now, what was kind of innovative about this one, outside of maybe Star Wars, which really wasn't a movie tie-in, it was a movie tie-in, and it actually wasn't a bad game. It was a new take on combat. It was neat to look at. It was in the real world, you quote unquote, like Matrix, but modern world. How's that? And what it did different too was in storytelling, it was canon. Like the stuff that was supposed to happen in Matrix Online was part of it was continuing the Matrix story. Like the whole game starts out with who killed Morpheus. Morpheus got assassinated inside the Matrix after all the movies and everything, and that was what you were trying to figure out, which faction. They had the Merovingian, which was the French guy that you remembered with Persephone. They had the Machine, a faction, and then there was the Human faction. So they had three separate factions. It was a fun game. It was my home when I left EverQuest 2 for a time before I eventually returned. But it was a lot of fun. But that was it's really after the WoW thing, but it was also being made while WoW was being made. I mean, 3 months isn't like, let's throw this together and make it just like WoW. WoW didn't exist yet, so threw that one in there. So now that we've hit World of Warcraft, the things kind of went downhill. The industry saw a whole brand new cash cow. I mean, millions upon millions of subs in World of Warcraft. It peaked in 2010 at about an estimated 12 million active subscribers. It's not like today where Final Fantasy 14 is like, we've got 10 million subscribers. It's like, yeah, well, that's over the entire period of your game and not how many of those are active kind of a thing, which is a number crunching thing a lot of MMOs do. They give you a stat and it's, ESO does the same thing. Like, we got millions and millions of people. Well, yeah, but you're also free to play. How many of those are actually paying you? which is another industry standard that kind of sucks. So 12 million, 2010. The last official number that I could find was 20.
Have another drink, baby.
I wish. I got to do this damn show. Talk about a bunch of nerd shit. 2015, they had around 7 million. I think like the estimates are around 5 to 6 these days, and they're just estimates. There's no hard data on that. So take it for a grain of salt and take it with what you will. But this was kind of where innovation in MMOs kind of died as a whole. After WoW, it was really nothing but people copying what worked, and often the problem with what copies what works is they didn't do it as well, so they just stopped learning. I mean, you can copy something.
If they copied it, but they didn't do it as well as WoW did, and if I wanted to fucking do that, I'd play WoW.
Right.
So,
I mean,
that makes no sense.
I could copy a Picasso. Doesn't make it a Picasso. I could paint like that. No, it's not quite the same. So, and don't get me wrong, there were some successful ones. Obviously, Lord of the Rings Online, still very popular. MMO-wise, if you take out the Tolkien stuff, it's a WoW clone. It's mediocre kind of at best.
Yeah,
really.
It's even a mediocre WoW. It's not,
And it's only because of the Tolkien thing.
Yeah. It is fun to play, and it's sort of fun to roleplay in, but we were forced to go play Lord Turo for a while when EQ died. Briefly.
We tried, and it didn't, and and all of it was based off of the lore. It wasn't the game so much as, and it has a lot of really great stuff. It just has stuff that WoW had already done.
Yeah.
But for and honestly, Lord of the Rings Online, I consider it a success. It was a successful WoW clone, and it did very well. But for every one of those, there were these: Vanguard Online, Tabula Rasa, Age of Conan, Warhammer, Fallen Earth, Star Trek Online eventually turned itself around, and APB, or All Points Bulletin.
Now, I gotta say that Age of Conan was a good game when it started.
The only thing I could give, and I was gonna see if you agree with this, Jazz. The only thing I can give Age of Conan for innovating for was its combat system, in that you could hit multiple bad guy mobs at once. It didn't have the click and target or tab and target.
Yeah, you had to. It was the first one that did that, and that was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a great deal. I loved their combat.
Yeah.
I loved being a mage. I loved being a necro. Well, except for if you stood next to the water, all your pets drowned on dry land.
Necromancer, not Philiac.
Necromancer. Whatever. Anyway, the point was, it was a buggy ass fucking game.
It really was.
It was a lot of fun. The combat was fun. The problem is every time someone whined, I swear to God, on the forums, they would change the goddamn game. And so they tweaked and tweaked and tweaked that game until it was useless and no one could play. And it was a nightmare. And they purposely, I think, didn't want role players in their game and really made it hard to have role players in their game.
Yeah, and it was.
But there was still
and I had fun with it for the time I played it, but that time was very, very limited. And it was also, it's like Vanguard.
I will never, ever forgive them for tossing that game basically into the trash to make Secret World.
Yeah. Yep, and that's pretty much what.
Still angry about that after all these years.
You're in the same category of the City of Hero guys with NCSoft and Guild Wars 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I will never, ever forgive them, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. That's really shitty.
Yeah.
Yes. And they didn't even hide it.
Mm-mm.
The guy that took over, they lost their executive, and I don't remember what happened, but I remember that they got a new guy running everything. And he said, AOC is cool, and it's making all this money for us, but here's what we're going to do. I have this really good idea. It's called Secret World, and we're going to make that game.
And you're going to play
So you should probably not play AOC because we're not going to update it anymore. Mm-hmm. Not that they didn't. They continually updated it, but...
Right, but it wasn't it wasn't full support. There's a difference between keeping it updated and doing the bare minimum and, a staff of 300 people.
Right. I mean, it was just, and they did that, and Secret World was a trash can fire when it first came out. It did eventually, as I understand it, turn into a good game.
Yeah.
But
they redid it sort of like Final Fantasy Online did the Realm Reborn thing.
Yep.
Yeah. They redid it, and I heard it was a lot of fun, and you can ask Ash, and he had to literally blackmail me to go play the game.
Mm-hmm.
I hate them so much. I still hate them so much.
And even then...
And he was like, aren't you a team player? I mean, how hard would... Oh, my God, fine.
I at least got her to try it, but again, it's still even with their
revamp, it wasn't, and I gotta say, it wasn't unfun.
Yeah,
it just wasn't the kind of game that I enjoy. Yeah. But I did have to say, I did go play Secret World when it first came out because I was curious, and it was awful. So they definitely made it a better game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty rough in the beginning.
Yeah,
the remake,
kind of like what ESO was like when it first came out. It was just. I set ESO on fire and threw it away. I didn't even buy the game. It was that bad.
Ben and I were in the beta for ESO. Yeah. As I recall, we couldn't even get out of the first tutorial cave.
Like the tutorial cave, yeah.
Yeah.
I played it to like level 12 and I was just done. Mm-hmm. I didn't even make it through the whole beta. I was just like, nope, this is dumb. I can't turn my character around. I literally had to back through a quest one time. I was just like, nope, we're done. I can't take this.
Back that ass up, Jazz. Get this quest done.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, but yeah, and don't get me wrong, like in Star Wars or Star Trek, it turned itself around. It's a pretty fun game now. I will give it that. And they all had their niches, but they were I would not call them, especially Star Trek was surprising because it's fucking Star Trek. How'd you fuck that up?
They didn't do that very well. I didn't enjoy it when I played it initially,
and
I got a free thing and I tried it and I hated it and I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
I didn't like Rift at first, but my husband played the hell out of it, and then I went back and played and found it a lot of fun, and housing was interesting. So I can't say I hate Rift. I just went to ESO instead.
Yeah. So, all right. And then around this time, a new contender enters the match. The Asian MMO. Whoa. Things like Lineage 2, Aeon. I mean, just fucking.
We did Aeon. We all did Aeon.
Yeah, and there's a ton of them. This is just those are the big ones that got here. Not all of them even get here, and like I think some of the biggest MMOs now are actually over in the Asian market, and I don't think most of us have heard of any of them. Like multiple million player, subscribed games, never heard of them. And they would probably never come over here because they're garbage. But like we said, they're all geared towards heavy grinding. They are massive time sinks, just ungodly amounts of time needed to do the bare minimum of almost anything, and a lot of them. They also have the pay-to-win model in a lot of them, which is things go up and you could just buy it with real-world money in order to advance yourself, which over in the Asian gaming market is accepted in a lot of ways, and it's just reviled and hated in the Western market, which is why
there's also an astounding amount of gold farming and gold selling, which is also reviled in the West, but
over there,
from what I gather, perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. They don't care
in the East,
Yeah, I don't know, it's just a cultural thing. I mean, a lot of it is China. It's Chinese-based. When we say Asian market, really we're talking mostly about China, more than countries like even Japan or in China and maybe South Korea. They seem to be a big part of that as well. But it's just looking at it from
Ragnarok Online.
Yeah, just looking at it from a Western player perspective, I don't know if they just... I don't think that they have any more time than we do, or it's just got to be. There's got to be something different in the cultures from the East to the West, where they're perfectly happy to sit there and do the same thing. Killing 5,000 things to get a few gold over hours and hours and hours and hours, and that's perfectly fine. I don't get it, but there's clearly something to it because all the Asian MMOs that come out. I mean, even Black Desert Online, when they brought it over here, they tried to un-Easternize it, un-Asian MMO it, and they were moderately successful, but then slowly the pay-to-win elements they had pulled out of it slowly started to leak back into it in the form of not pay-to-win, but pay for convenience is what they called it. And unfortunately, I was suckered and actually used that, and I still paid for it. Also, things like a costume costing $30 American. One costume.
Yeah.
Real world $30. Yeah.
I can't play games like that because I'm a clothes whore.
Yes.
Me too.
And at $30 a pop, you may as well just go get a fucking new wardrobe in the real world. At least you'll it'll last longer. Then with that too, then came also, though technically from the Asian market, but this one's a little bit more family friendly. Final Fantasy XIV, and while I said not quite the same, the release date of Final Fantasy XIV was calling it a fetal dumpster fire is probably not quite accurate enough. It was unplayable garbage. I mean, just it's the crowning. Its big crowning achievement was it was the first MMO that opened up in such a poor state that it was basically unplayable, and closing it down, and they closed it down for I want to say it was 9 months
like
to
6
a
months,
year,
6,
yeah,
9
something
months
like
to a
that.
year, yeah.
And they literally almost built the game from the ground up in that amount of time. And when they relaunched it as A Realm Reborn, it was playable, it was fun, it had a good story, and then it fell into what it's currently at, which is where a lot of them are at, leaving ESO. It's the repetitive game design, and it's the same old thing, same thing pushed out every patch, and it's very, exactly what you're getting every single time. There's no like, what will they do next kind of a thing. But Final Fantasy XIV.
The patches or not the patches. The expansions are kind of. I mean, it's been a while. To be fair, it's been a while since I've played, but it seems like the expansions were also really, like far and few between. If that makes sense.
Yes, it was. They do them very far and few between, and then they'll have like expansion for Final Fantasy XIV is like 4.0. And then when they do a big update, it's 4.1, then 4.2. And they literally add since 2.1, which was A Realm Reborn, or 2.0, that was A Realm Reborn, was when that started. They've done the exact, they add a couple dungeons, they'll add a raid, they'll add some story content, and then they'll add a different kind of raid, some story content, and something else. And they've continued that pattern since it's re-released. The only problem with that is when you continue that pattern, but you, in the words of Limit Break Radio, objectively give less content every time you do that. The first time they updated in 2.0 and things like that, it was like 30 or 40 some MSQ quests. And nowadays, like 10, 12. So you get, and now they're getting, instead of 3 dungeons like they used to get, now they get like 1.5 kind of. It's just less content. So when you continue that thing, people can see they're paying the same, but they're getting less, and it's not a good way to go about it.
Not a good look, guys.
Not a good look, Cotton. Let's see if this plays out. So then we have a series of them: Rift, DC Universe Online, Star Wars: The Old Republic, Terra, which is the only one of these I haven't played, The Secret World, Guild Wars 2, PlanetSide 2, the failed crossover from show to game, which was a good show but a shit game, Defiance, which very fun
sad.
show, Neverwinter, not Nights, but just Neverwinter, the MMO, even our, largely current MMO of choice, ESO, all suffered from the sameness. They were all basically launched in the same sort of meh kind of a state. They had a lot of problems. They were definitely not refined. ESO ended up following Final Fantasy XIV's footsteps, without being quite so severe, as they didn't have to close down for 6 to 8 months.
And write an apology letter.
Right.
Yeah.
And literally
We're so sorry.
bow to cameras. Yeah, the apology letter for the Tanaka, I think it was the guy that did that. Man, he was. But that goes to something we've talked about before, which is the difference between Western game design, where it's kind of a team build with a lead, and Asian market design, which is basically our movie. Like, there's the director, and what he says goes. It's his vision or nothing, and everyone is. He's the director. Period. Everything goes through him, kind of a thing. It's a very. When it works, it works, and when it doesn't, you end up bowing on camera and apologizing and shutting your game and giving away, I think, a year free of service. And almost completely destroying your company. That's beside the point. So a lot of these, they just suffer from sameness. They all kind of, they stop. Like ESO does some
the
good
only
stuff.
difference in all of these games is the skin, i.e. the story of the game. That's it. That's the only difference. They all roughly play the same. It was a bit of a shock to go back to Tor and play again because I've gotten used to mouse look.
Right.
So that took a little bit of adjustment to go back. I'm sure I would have trouble
even
playing
that plays
EQ2 at this point.
in even that Star Wars Tours.
But it's all basically the same thing.
It plays like EQ2 and all the others.
And they changed it, of course, to make it simpler because the poor dears couldn't figure out how to put the points in order. So now it just does it for you, and you can't choose how to make your character anymore. Thank you, EQ2.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I remember that.
EQ2 did that too. It pissed me off. So now when you level Star Wars, it just goes down this. They wanted to make it feel like you're still making choices, but you're not. They have this like winding path and things pop up and here's your new thing. Oh, here's your new thing. And they let you choose what you want to be, like DPS or tank or whatever. But it's all chosen for you. And I'm like, you know what?
It's all getting dumbed down.
That really pisses me off because I enjoyed reading everything and choosing how I was going to have my character. Now everything's just cookie cutter. Chicking, 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 chicking.
And
yeah. No, I'm with you there. And the other thing that pisses me off too is tutorials that talk down to me.
Oh yeah, I know.
Like you hop in an MMO and it's like use WASD to walk. Well, no shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean,
when
I
they give
get
you the
it.
option
There's
to turn
people
that
playing.
stuff off.
Yeah, but ESO gave me. I didn't even use it for the first seconds of the game. As soon as it popped up, started telling me what to do. I said, oh, "Okay, pause, escape, shut this crap off." There we go, because it's just going to make me mad.
Press. Hey, Jazz. Press spacebar to jump.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh.
Press C to crouch. But it's to quick Yunfei note. Rift was innovative in that it was one of the first, if not the first, MMO to have wide-reaching server events, Rift and invasions, that would impact the environment. Sadly, they didn't really expand on that innovation as time went on, and it became samey, which is true.
EQ2 copied them, which I didn't realize initially because I didn't play Rift. But they copied Rift and did those big group auto raid kind of things that they did, which were a ton of fun. But they started it in Rift and then they brought it into EQ2 because haven't had an original idea since they started the game.
And even what they did in Rift wasn't what they said it was. They're like, well, you're gonna. These rifts can open up anywhere, and the town you log out in, you could log back in, and it will be gone and taken over by the bad guys. Yeah, except that no, it won't be, because there's just a group of people running around taking care of them until eventually it becomes, as you said, so samey that people just gave up on them and just didn't give a shit anymore. At least when I left.
Yeah. Same with us.
But they made it sound like it was
and it was a lot of fun in EQ2, but now if you go into EQ2 to those areas where those big group events are, nobody's there.
Well, what's funny is you say that too, and Final Fantasy has a very similar thing in those, I forget what they're called now, but they have the little things that pop up, and you're supposed to go to them and travel to them and things like that. And no, people stopped doing it. It was supposed to be some big innovation, but because it's literally... It's just the same script every single time. Nothing ever happens. So, okay. So
we lost Yunfei. Oh no, she went into the collar waiting room. Okay,
but that was okay. So that's the most of the end of the gaming history. I mean, there's still some stuff that's come out since. Obviously, but
Yeah, but they're all the same. There's no point in even...
It gets repetitive after a while. So
I do have a couple that I want to mention at the end.
But at the end. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that I've been watching too that are interesting to me that I want to watch. I mean, I half expect them to disappoint me, but
that's if they even come out.
Yeah. Even if they even make it out. But right now they're interesting enough to draw my attention. So that'll be something to at the end. But right now, I mean, all the MMOs are the same. There's no difference.
Yeah.
It's
frustrating. How's Grandma sound there, Yunfei? Oh, I guess okay. Well, since we're finishing that part up, before we get to the next part, let's go ahead and go to our call line. Go to Grandma Gothy. How's it going, Grandma?
Hello. Hi.
Hi. I didn't know my grandma listened to the show, but I appreciate you. It's weird that you're
I
calling
love you
from
so
beyond
much, Sonny.
calling from beyond the grave after we scattered your ashes off the Ventura County sea line.
Don't ask questions you don't want answers to.
How is Elvis, and have you seen him lately? No. So what we can do for you, Grandma?
He's wonderful. I'd say, first off, thank you for letting me come on here, but I did have some comments about the riffs that you had mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even though they actually have changed them quite a bit with the recent expansions of Krish's Claw and then the Water Rift Zone. They actually added in more, I guess, invasion types. So when you do have an invasion, NPCs do die. There are monsters. You can't access certain vendors or quest hubs anymore. Like if you go to Stone Fields and there's an invasion point, you can't walk into that town. You're going to get aggro and die. It's very...
So they at least added to it eventually. It's just I just haven't had a reason to go back. Also because their towns were teeny tiny. Like
some of the towns are teeny tiny, but the water zone is obviously a buff of Warcraft. Everyone kind of rips from there. To be fair, the water combat is a little bit better. It's fine-tuned. But they also have Nightmare Rifts, which you can get gear from for your little attunement slots, which it's infinite rift levels. It never closes until you fail.
Huh. Well, and that was the other problem I had with Rift. It's like, this is the capital city, the beacon of light. I can run around this thing in 2.5 minutes.
Oh yeah, it was definitely. I know they had eventually had some merging spots. Was it like Tempest City where both sides could come in and converse with each other? They got rid of the racial block, so a lot of people would actually go over to the Guardian side and roleplay there. It was like a good Rift.
Right, I forgot about I
IRP'd there for a good 5-6 years with a guild called Blackwood Company, and that was ran by a council of a lot of very talented and amazing people. Yeah. But unfortunately, with all the pay-to-win stuff coming in and the recent buyout with Gamago, it became very difficult for the people to continue.
Right. Yeah. When they hit that, like, it's pay-to-win stuff. I saw something for our Fallout 76, which is going against what they said they didn't ever be pay-to-win in a cash shop, and yet soon you'll be.
I mean, it is Bethesda. I kind of figured it would be coming with 76. Yeah. I mean, I still have my code and I haven't put it in, but it did look to be good from what it started with. I just wish they had added in a text chat for people who don't have microphones or can't.
Yeah, and it's a fun enough game. It's like, again, we say it's all the time, glitchy as all hell, but they're adding in a thing now instead, when you have to repair your items, you can buy in the cash shop, you can buy a repair thing that will do it on the fly when you're out and about. It's like, well,
instead of being able to craft one, they're just going to make you pay for it.
That's right.
Sounds like Bethesda.
Mm-hmm. So, well, that's good. And some of these we've definitely not been back to. It's just heartbreaking.
And, Fallout 76 does have a text-based mod that you can get, and if both people have it, you can text back and forth. It's either private message or area message, which means that if somebody has the mod in your area, they can see what you're typing regardless.
Oh, boy.
So
well, at least that's something, but it's sad.
I mean, it's something, but it does mean that anybody doing the naughty is going to have to make sure it's in private messages.
Oh yeah. Honestly, that's another thing you never want to roll 30 for there, kids.
Yeah.
Just like Overwatch.
Can you imagine trying to ERP in something like 76, even with that? Because like 7 minutes into it, you'd be like, hold on, I'm hungry and thirsty and dying. I need to take a drink.
Hold on, my kids spilled apple juice all over the counter. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Or one of those not scorch. What are the big things that fly and come down and kill you?
Scorch beast.
Scorch beast.
Scorch beast. Right. Will land on your house in the middle of
coitus.
coitus.
Sorry,
You don't
hold
have any
on.
thought to
Super
defend
Apparently,
yourself.
they don't know the rule. If the house is rocking, don't come and knock.
Come knocking. That's right. Yeah, they don't know that one.
That's right. The other problem I had with Rift 2, and this is maybe from a guy perspective, you can't make a good-looking guy character. They all look
I agree
retarded.
with you 100% on that. Like,
Yep.
99% of the guys were horrible. There were like maybe 2 or 3 male models that people nailed pretty well, but I mean,
did everything
it was pretty.
I could, and no matter what I did, I looked like his nose and his face and jaw looked like fucking Rocky Balboa, like it'd been broken. The lighting used usually 90% of the time. The lighting across the bridge of his nose made him look like that punk anime character that always has the Band-Aid there. I don't know what it was.
It was the same nose. Like, you couldn't change noses, you couldn't change lips. It was just one standard kind of setup, and that's all you got. But I'm not gonna lie, the Rift housing is so much better.
See,
it's just, I mean,
I don't.
Oh my
Well,
God.
yeah, because they don't have the limit. First of all, and second of all, although they still had, wasn't it still Hook or was it?
I don't know that they even had the housing when I stopped playing it, so I don't know.
When
they implemented housing halfway between free to play and launch.
Okay,
it was
it's
put in there.
They
So
didn't have housing when we were.
I mean, they do have the upgrade limits. You have to pay platinum, where you can pay credits. Of course, you know that's just the option. But the other contender for housing was Wild. But once you claimed an item, you kept it in WildStar. You could move everything around. It was very diverse, like ESO.
WildStar was neat, but it was still it was pretty limited as well. Either in getting the items, I remember being very wonky. Kind of.
That's
the problem in Tor.
I played it
is that there's
from
not
beta to close. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. I never really. I just couldn't get into it. I had fun with it for a time, and then it got real grindy to me. You know, but everybody, again, I'm glad at least you had fun with it while it lasted.
Oh yeah, and, you know, I can't say I can judge you. I mean, that's everyone has their own kind of specific thing. You grew up in a different genre of MMOs. I mean, I enjoy that cartoony, semi-realistic. Like I've played Terra, I've played, you know, whatchamacallit, the Arcade. I've played a lot of Tryon games, you know, Battle.net games. The one that always stands out to me is WildStar because they took a concept and they did something extremely different and out there. And, you know, and that's one thing that a lot of gaming companies are afraid to do. I mean, that's why Warcraft won't add in housing. That's why ESO, you know, won't add in flying mounts. It'll take away from something or feel like it's a copy because all examples will lead back to Warcraft. I mean, the economies, the social stuff, everything leads back to Warcraft.
And, yeah, especially these days. Very. And I will give, you know, but even with WildStar, like they did a few great things with the combat, you know, and even that was kind of Age of Conan like, but a lot of the mechanics and gameplay stuff was still at its base World of Warcraft. You know, it was the go here, get 10 rats, that, you know, that same old EverQuest and EverQuest 2, World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah,
a lot of that
definitely.
same stuff. And I don't know how they're going to get out of that, but someone's got to think of
They've got to find a way to.
I mean, they did post
so
like an end
annoying.
of story thing, and it did turn out actually beautifully, the whole story. I mean, they ended up adding in that matrix, the primal matrix, where it's like an end game, like champion points for ESO, and they had like little daily quests you could do to get your points if you ran different content like PvP or dungeons or raiding. I watched my guild leader raid some of the times, and the raids were absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's almost Warcraft level, I would say.
Yeah.
The mechanics are pretty technical, but once you got it down pat, I mean,
it was
I'm not gonna lie, the whole
not,
system.
Not a,
oh yeah,
not a
it was
cheap,
straight shoot
cheap
upward.
shot, old school Nintendo, like, yep, it's difficult for the sake of being difficult kind of thing.
Yeah, it was, I mean, not gonna lie, the whole system was really wonky. There was a lot of problems with it, but it was weird in its own way, you know, kind of like how EQ2 is.
Yep, understandable. Well, I appreciate you calling in, Grandma.
Alright, well, thank you again for having me. I'll let you guys get back to it.
Alright, you have a good one. Thanks for calling. Talk to you later, Gothy.
Bye-bye.
Alright, so, appreciate her calling in like that, and now that we're done with all the history stuff, I want to go real quick.
You realize what time it is, right?
I know. I knew this one might run long. If you have to go, you can go. It's all right.
I am going to probably have to mute briefly and go make sure my children are all alive.
You're fine. So why was all of this history important? One, you should probably know where your games are coming from. Two, because you need to know where you've been to know where you're going. And now, take into this for consideration. Video games as a whole, isn't even 50 years old yet. The very first Pong arcade game machine made by Atari came out in 1971.
So we're still 3 years, give or take, away from a 50-year-old gaming machine. And that was Pong. Not exactly the pinnacle of modern gaming. So the entire thing that we're playing as a whole, almost 50 years. And MMOs really didn't take off until about 2000, so about 20 years. So we're in an industry that has kind of flared up and also almost died out within a 20-year time span. And it's why? I mean, as you can see, it's because they just kind of stopped innovating. And games as a whole haven't stopped. So I mean, we still have things like The Witcher 3, Spider-Man, the From Software games like Sekiro or the Souls games. We get the Fortnite, Apex Legends, the indie scene, which is, Yunfei plays a lot of those. It's some of my favorite games. Even the reemergence of the 16-bit era, for things like now I can't think, Shovel Knight, and that whole kind of sub-genre of creating those old 16-bit games, but with a newer, more modern, tight controller scheme, bigger stories, more choices, but old school difficulties.
There's usually only like 1 to 3 people working on the games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a very small.
One of the favorites and probably one of the best looking games and very difficult. Cuphead was made by a very small team. I think about 12 people, and it was hand drawn animation.
Freaking adore everything about Cuphead. Love it. Absolutely love it.
I suck at it, but I loved looking at it. Oh, it was awful.
Died so many times.
Awful. But MMOs, where are we at? 10 rats, 14 BSs, kill the Orc King. It's where we've not really evolved past that.
No.
So
I wish we had, but
I wish we had too. And and they've the great thing about the MMOs, they've taken the time to create a new world and they flesh it out, and it was amazing, it was innovative, and now it's gone cookie cutter. Even the newer ones on the horizon aren't doing anything new. In fact, if anything, they're going old, cookie cutting from before WoW, which is not any better. I don't know how many of the current MMOs on the list of things that are coming out in the next 2 years have the words in it, spiritual successor to, in their descriptions.
Yeah.
And
I've noticed there's been a lot of games coming out that are blocky and back to the old pixel kind of look and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, or they try to do something. It's like what was it? I think I've got it on here. Like Pantheon. It's the guy that made EverQuest. Spiritual successor to EverQuest. I don't need a spiritual successor to EverQuest or City of Heroes or any of those other games. They've all come, they've gone, they've either failed or they've closed down or they're still active right now. I can play them. I don't need a successor to that if I can play it right now. There's nothing to success. It's not like like there's one coming out that's a superhero game. Good.
Yeah.
Because City of Heroes isn't a thing anymore. There's a very open market in the superhero genre of MMOs. So,
especially now with all the superhero movies coming out and being so successful.
Yeah, people would
love
I
think the hardest thing
play an Iron Man.
For me is that they don't. Our technology has moved forward, and coding has gotten more complex. There are more layers, and yet they don't change anything.
They don't use the modern power.
They're not using. They're not trying to suss out why I can't sit in a damn chair without hovering over the chair or actually sitting a foot away from the chair. Come on, guys. We've had coding a long time. Can we fix this, please?
Or why?
How hard is that?
Why it is you see yourself sitting there just fine, and everyone else in the room sees you standing.
What is with that bug? It has been in every game I have ever played. What is up with that?
I wish I could answer that. All right, real quick before we move on here, let's go back to our call line. Go to Calico. How's it going, Calico?
Hello.
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Not too shabby.
Doing good.
What you got for us, man?
Well, it's one thing that absolutely irritates me about almost every single MMO I have ever played from the beginning to now. You go into an instance that they spent months, maybe years on, and the graphics are amazing, the terrain is amazing, it's just a beautiful scene, and they do nothing with what they did other than that instant.
And and on top of that, it's usually a dungeon where once you get in there once, everyone after that is like, hurry, 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 hurry.
Yep.
And nobody looks at it again.
Yeah, and I mean, all that time, all that talent, absolutely wasted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it may as well just... It's just a very pretty... A lot of times nowadays, they're just a very pretty corridor that leads to a room that you fight something in, that leads to another corridor, that leads to another room.
Yeah. If you ever played Dungeons and Dragons, if you've ever played it, and you ever wrote out your campaigns, you have the hallway and then you have the big round thing. That's where you're going to have a battle. And then you can either go down this hallway or this hallway. And then there's the round area we're going to have conflict.
Yeah.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
It's not changed. It's like you can't even think about, and not to mention that, but they on the same idea. Remember when we used to play on the consoles? I always say it wrong. Link.
Legend of Zelda.
Legend of Zelda.
Legend of Zelda. Thank you. And the scenes there with the when you're riding the horse out there, and there's you have to ride around this one hill and you go down.
Ocarina of Time and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time. But even before that, they had the almost exact same scenery, just was better graphics now. I mean, if you played it like I did, the first one, and then you played the second one, you were like, oh, I know where I am. Yep. If I go down here, the cave's right over here. And it was. That's cool, right? The problem is, when I played EQ, Rift, Tor, it's the same. I don't remember what planet it was, but I was on Tor, and I was going on, and I stopped because I was on my...
speeder bike?
What is it called? My motorbike thing that hovers.
Your speeder.
Speeder bike. And I was transported back to that game. Ocarina of Time. And I was like, wait a minute. So if I go around this corner and over the hill, there's going to be a cave. And guess what? Now, what that tells me is they're using the same mesh on every game.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And they're just making it prettier, because I couldn't believe it. I told the guy that I was with, because we'd never been to this planet before, I said, we're going to go around the corner. It's going to be a cave right over there. How do you know that? How did you know that? And I'm like, it was there in Ocarina of Time. And it was
and it didn't. It wasn't you were cheating on by looking at the map, because the map didn't unlock in a brand new area till you went there.
Right.
So you were just guessing.
I just knew. And I was like, oh my God, it's the same overall structure.
Yeah.
Just prettier. Oh, it was the one with the orange. Everything was orange. Do you know which one I'm talking about? With all the trees were orange and the grass was orange instead of green.
It was a very short few letters planet, but I don't.
I won't say Taurus, but that's not it.
No,
it was the one with the weirdly colored people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, always with jazz and the colored people.
Shut up. I loved that planet, by the way, and I loved those people. The culture was fascinating, but it was on that planet.
It was the planet that always reminded me of. They were orange.
Was it Kesh?
No, that's a different one.
Voss.
Voss. There we go.
Yeah, they were.
Voss.
Right here next to me. I was like looking at the planet.
Yeah, they were basically orange Navi from the James Cameron Avatar movie. Is kind of what they reminded me of.
Kind of. Or like the blue men, but different
eyes,
colors.
That's right. Yeah, they had the weird buggy eyes. Looking at me with your bug eyes.
But I feel like they just make it pretty, but it's all basically the same thing. You just wash, rinse, repeat in the same thing, and they go to all this effort, like in this one zone. You go in, and it's underground, but there's a library, and it really, if you stop and look, it's an actually really cool looking place in ESO, but you always are so racing through it that you never really look. And
and they
really
don't. And that's the thing; they don't give you. There's no incentive or reason to look. And everything you do in an MMO, I mean, even roleplay, there's an incentive and a reason you have to want to do that.
Yeah,
and some of them give you discovery.
Right, but that only
true,
works.
but I'm talking about
and that only works
in
once.
ESO, they want you to read all the bookshelves, right?
Right.
You get the books on there, so you do have a reason to go kind of around and
because you
run
may
around.
get a random skill upgrade.
Right, but at the same time, you're not really looking at everything. Because at any point, it's going to be time to fight the big baddie, and you've got to focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wish that, I know a friend of mine was like, I will kill you if you ever make a game like this. But I want a game where everybody walks.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, you can't, like, there's an entire subgenre of gaming right now called the walking simulator. My daughter in Sib watched me play. What was it? Firewatch. I think.
Firewatch.
Firewatch.
Yeah.
Like, they watched me play that whole 3-hour experience, and we enjoyed the hell out of it. And it's literally, I mean, it's a walking simulator. You can't do anything but walk. You can maybe like move slightly, walk like a mall walk at times, but even that's kind of limited.
But I mean, and I would totally support running at a time, but it needs to have a cost. Yeah. And I really think that the reason we run is because there's nothing in between point A to point B.
Right.
And you'd go crazy if they made you walk and spend all that time when you could just run.
If you do
EQ1 boat rides.
Yeah.
God, yeah. But if it doesn't feel like you're walking even while you're walking because there's something to do or look at.
Right. But if you're providing things close together all the time, if quests and things like that actually interacted with this beautiful environment that you're creating, I think that would be amazing to do.
Yeah. And
there is another reason to run. You know, you're a low level, turn a corner, see something.
That's true.
You realize it's a boss.
Mm-hmm.
Run away. Yes. But yeah.
Well, yeah, but if you're doing the walking simulator style, that's why you would, instead of running around the corner, seeing the boss and running your ass away, you would peek around the corner, see the boss, and be like, I'm not going to go in there.
It's over there to eat me. Yeah.
And that's when the developer has it to where the minute you peek around, he does too, so you look eye to eye.
Yes. And then you say, hold up a minute. I knew you'd get that one. If you're not watching girlfriend reviews on YouTube, go watch girlfriend reviews on YouTube.
Oh, man, what are you doing
hilarious.
with your life?
Yeah, you're wasting all your time.
They're so good.
But no, I think I've got a few ideas and it's really not even, I'll get to it at the end. A lot of it is going to be technological innovation with things like algorithms, AI, AGI, and things, which is artificial general intelligence, which is, it's what scares Elon Musk and keeps him up at night and is trying to make him get his ass to Mars. That's why he's doing that. But if you bring
lost me
gaming,
at Alga Eurythmics.
What's that?
Lost me at Alga Eurythmics.
I've always been a Skynet fan myself. Go with the original. Original's always the best. We learned that with World of Warcraft. Anyway. So
you guys have a good one.
Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Okay. See you later,
Thank you. Later.
You have a good night. Thanks for calling RPMMORadio. So, all right. Well, moving on here, because it's forever. We don't need the spiritual successors. So, in fact, let me ask those of you guys here real quick, listening, name an MMO on the horizon that you're, like, excited for. Like, really excited for. Excited like you were back before, maybe, or perhaps when a new single-player game's out. Like, for me right now, and I think probably, 5 or 6 other people out there in the world, Cyberpunk 2077. Kind of super hyped for that. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game.
Me too, but I don't know that that's going to be an MMO.
No, it's not. But I'm saying in the vein of that kind of excitement for an MMO. Or because, it's the guys that did Witcher 3, CD Projekt Red. They do amazing things. I'm excited for that game. Like knowing I'm going to get Starscream, the Transformer, on Christmas, and it's Christmas Eve, and I don't get to open that as my grandma's Christmas Eve opening night present. I have to wait till the next day, but I know it's there because I may or may not have sneaked into the closet and seen it. But I didn't sleep at all. And in fact, I got in trouble the next day because we opened it, and then I was trying to play with it, and it was like 9:30, and I'm like in the doorway with the light basically bouncing off the door from the hallway into my door, and I'm playing with it. But that's beside the point. I was excited, and for an MMO, man, I got nothing. I know of all the ones coming out. Like we have Star City.
Oh, bless you.
Oh, I was like, what was that? That's the kitty.
I'm sorry. Tuna sneezed.
Bless you, Tuna. So we have Star Citizen, and it's the game of infinite alpha. It's an amazing concept, and if
it's Pantheon for that matter.
Yeah, and if it ever comes out, it'll be great. But even if it comes out, will it deliver what it's promising? I don't know. I can't even get out of alpha.
Pantheon is probably its graphics are wanting, but I'm a graphics snob.
Right.
I'm not interested in EverQuest 1's graphics. I think it's ridiculous. But anyway,
well, no, and you're not wrong. So in that vein,
I'm excited.
Go ahead.
And I've been watching Trials of Ascension Exile.
Right.
It's in early access. It looks interesting. I still haven't quite figured out how I feel about the fact that you can play a dragon, a bug, or a human. That's interesting. I'm curious how that's going to work.
Yeah.
So I've been watching it because it's so different.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
what I'm getting at. You're watching it. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Are you like super stoked Christmas
No.
Eve? No.
No, but I am interested, and it could be really cool.
Oh, I'm interested in a lot of them too. I'm just not stoked.
Legends of Aria.
That one
also in early access. This one looks interesting. It doesn't look cookie cutter. It's a sandbox, which is more what I'm looking at. It kind of has a sim-ish look to it. The classes don't excite me, but it does look neat, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen. But those are the only two games in all the games that I see that even look remotely interesting, and none of them. Pantheon doesn't sound good to me because the last thing I need is a game that I can't solo in. So,
and it is.
I have absolutely no interest in playing something because I don't group with people. People bother me, and most of my friends work the majority of their time different from me. So, I have to level on my own for the most part, except for like some of the group content. When we all group together on a day, we set up and say, okay, I'm off on this day. Are you? No. How about this day? Yes. Okay, we can go do it on this day because we coordinate that way. But this whole absolutely has to be group stuff is for the birds. And so I don't foresee playing Pantheon, although I do like the character.
Yeah, and I'll give it. I'll probably, then there's also Crowfall, which the problem with that one is it's largely. They say it's like a Game of Thrones style MMO, but it's also heavily PvP based.
Right, which I have absolutely no interest in playing because I know what happens in PvP based games. You have a bunch of mentally 12-year-old boys running around in this just prior to grasping their wankers to get off on killing someone together as a group so no one can do anything.
Wow, you are by the way, you are being a terrible British person.
Sorry.
You just gotta get in there with the wanker. Don't hesitate on the wankers.
Trying to be less acidic. I find and I'm watching my kids playing PvP games all the time. And my littlest, my 8-year-old, has been sobbing on his desk because he's like, why are they so mean? I don't even have a gun yet.
Yeah.
Aww.
And I'm just like, because they're assholes. And my husband's laughing. Don't tell him that.
Not wrong.
Why? That's what it is. They're assholes. Why would you? And even my shrink is like, but that's the name of the game. I said, no, that's the problem. I don't think PvP should be about that. I think PvP should be about skill. And why would you want to kill somebody that didn't even have a weapon in their hand yet? It's obviously
a spawn camp and stuff, and
they spawn camp. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, there is. It's terrible. It shows that you have absolutely no sense of value as a human being. Or skill, if that's the only way that you can win. It's sad.
Yeah. Razor's
and I have a problem with that.
The one
I don't understand. And so for me, PvP isn't fun because I start playing
not
in PvP
as
and
basis for the entirety of a game.
No,
either.
It's bad enough that if I want to go get the stuff in ESO, I'm going to have to get, run over 100 times while I'm out there. I'm just not even going to wear armor. I'm just going to take off my armor, run around naked because I'm just going to die. So I'm just going to, I'm just going to go in there naked and do my best, but I can't play a game that's sole
content
purpose
is
is
PvP.
PvP.
Right, and there are those that maybe they can, but it's.
But I have to admit,
I thought niche.
I thought
thing.
76 was going to be like that, and it isn't.
True, but there's also
I've only been killed a couple times,
and there's not, and the penalties for it can be pretty. That's the thing; it depends on the systems around it.
That's true.
They just opened the Battlefront or whatever
Battlefield thingy.
Battlefield thing, and it is strictly all PvP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at least that's a totally separate server that you go to willingly, and you're good.
Willingly go into that.
If you want to see a good video on that, go over to Kev Do It on YouTube, who's a former ESO guy, and he plays that. He's a funny ass dude. But even him, they were out killing each other. They were trying to get #1 rank, and at the very end of his video, he's like, "There's something about 30 people that you've been killing for the last 3 hours, all getting together for a group photo, and they can still kill each other." But they were all together getting a giant group photo.
It was hilarious.
He's a very funny guy.
I agree with Razor.
Yeah.
I just realized you were right.
One on there, but even then, his next thing where he says, the game I'm excited for is Ashes of Creation, but I got burned with EverQuest Next, so my excitement is reined in.
I wanted EverQuest Next. I was...
Yeah, so did I.
I was just so excited about that. It was like Christmas. I was having so much fun. And I just loved that game. I played it the moment I got home.
Gave him
and
$200.
I paid $200 for it. It was fun. I loved it. And they just shit canned it. And I'm like, eh.
Yeah. But
on everything.
Ashes
we'll
of Creation is one I'm watching. But again, I'm not cited. There's Camelot Unchained, which, by the way, spiritual, if not direct descendant of the previously mentioned Dark Age of Camelot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sequel,
there's one game
really.
that Jazz actually just reminded me of that I noticed you didn't mention, and that was called Horizon. I don't remember how short-lived it was, but you played a dragon.
Oh, really? So maybe they're mimicking that in Trials of Ascension?
Could be, because I played Horizons for a little while, and then it was gone.
Because it says that you start off as a baby dragon, and then you grow up, and then you fly, and it looks fascinating.
Yeah, that was the same thing in Horizons.
Although I think I'd rather be this spidery thing.
It was dragons and like mer people, and then I think
I remember that. I didn't play it, but I read about it. I remember being excited to go see if it went anywhere.
I know the name, but I don't remember anything of it.
Yeah.
I know I must have looked at it at the time, but like, not for me. So after that, I forget. Then we have there's Blessed is coming out, which is kind of they failed at it once, so let's try it again. Then there's Amazon's New World. This is done by Amazon. It's their first.
I saw that, but there's very little out there about it,
and that's why I can't be excited for it. But what I've seen, it seems largely the same so far. I'm not excited, but again, there's a lot of information that's not out, which you temper that.
Okay. Is it like an MMO?
It's an MMO, and it's supposed to take place.
Or is it like
it's
like a Second Life, except you have to, buy things from Amazon that show up
and they'll send it to your virtual house instead, but it costs just as much. No, it's actually a New World, when America was first discovered, but it's not America.
Oh.
It's that time period of like the conquistadors and things like that. But there's also surprise, and much to Jazz's jubilation and joy, zombies.
I hate zombies. I hate zombies.
I'm
so sick of zombies. Can we please pick another? Okay, I'm fine.
So, all right. So moving
mildly
on.
historical with zombies.
So we can get on. There's one other abomination, and I say that with a capital abomination in the MMO genre, and that's the mobile MMORPG. Yeah.
That just looks awful.
So it's all the fun of an MMO, but it's on your phone, so you can have it with you anywhere. Only, you don't have to play it. You can just auto-path to the quest, and then
I don't understand
auto-path to the quest location. Oh, and then auto-path to the kills, and then, it'll auto-path you back to the quest giver. So really, all you have to do is click the button twice on the screen. You don't actually have to do anything.
That's bizarre. Who would find that funny?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Know. But there's several of them, and they're coming out all the time, and I don't get it. And because a lot of them are Asian too, it's got all the fun. Well, it's not even Asian. It's the mobile gaming market. It's all the fun of an Asian MMO, but everywhere, coming out everywhere, and they're all awful so far. They almost all follow the same horrible mobile gaming market, pay to win or pay for convenience, which is basically the same fucking thing. And mobile MMOs, I think, are where the entire if anything's going to kill the MMO genre, it's going to be this mobile MMO thing. I don't even know that it's a craze; it's just a thing.
I really, honestly, don't think it's going to kill anything. I think MMOs are here to stay, but I think that we're going through a saturation point, and until somebody comes up with something new, it's just going to be flat.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing too, of course, with a mobile MMO, imagine how much fun it is typing on your phone all the time, but trying to roleplay doing that.
No.
Go fuck yourself.
I can't text to save my life. I've got the fattest thumbs.
And we got another deal for you, Faye. Yesterday, when she visited Rahanar, he said the modern MMO is the battle royale.
Yep.
Yeah.
He said that, and that I really liked that a lot, and I wanted to.
It's what they saw. It's what happens with a lot of these things, like the Souls games, like the ultra hardcore kind of thing. There's definitely a market for that, but people saw From Games doing it, and they tried to copy that, but they don't do it as well. I mean, the Souls games, like in Sekiro Dies Twice, which is their new one, they're their own thing. They do it, and they do it right, and they do it well. By the way, if you want an easy mode on those, that's go fuck yourself. That's not what those games are about. I suck at them. I'm not saying this from an elitist point of view.
Tell them like it is there.
I'm not an elitist. I suck at those games. I still can't get past the first general, and he's not even a boss. I don't want an easy mode. That's not how those games are meant to be done. It's kind of the spirit of the thing. You either get better or you don't.
Yeah.
And there is a pattern to it all, and you can learn it. You just have to do it. But yeah, like in Battle Royale, was it PUBG? PUBG wasn't really the first one to start it. I forget what did it before PUBG, but PUBG really did it well. And then Fortnite switched over from what they were doing and did it even better. And then, now we've got Apex Legends. And then there's a dozen other ones that you've never heard of that all copied the exact same thing. So it does go kind of like that. With MMOs, it's unfortunately what they've been copying off of is from 13 years ago. So where do MMOs go from here? And I don't know, and I think
they have to get something new. They have to look at it. They have to stop copying each other. They have to start thinking outside the box, not get 10 rats.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they say, okay, I want you to go out there, I want you to gather, I need some of these herbs, and then, mix them with some water that you get from there, and then not far from there is some wood, gather some of that for me, and some mushrooms, and then come back here and I'll make you dinner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of go get the wood. You get the wood and bring it back. Okay, I also need mushrooms that are in this spot.
Same damn place.
Just make a list.
Right. Give me
a list, for God's sake, and just let me go out there, find everything that you freaking need since you're obviously inept, and then I will bring them all back to you.
Could you imagine watching Sib? We watched things like Top Chef. Can you imagine if we were watching Top Chef and the head cook was like, all right, what I need you to do is get me a steak, and they go get the steak, they cook it up, and all right, with that steak, we also need mushrooms. And then you go mushrooms. And then back onions and garlic. Garlic was
I know.
You realize you're making a meal. You can kind of do this all at once. It's okay. But
yeah.
So
also, nail character creation. And for God's sakes, learn how to do hair.
Why is that so hard?
Right?
Oh my God! It's like the simplest haircuts that exist on the world that 90% of the cultures on our world use, and they're not in there.
Yeah,
and even if they
so
are,
hard.
It's especially for women, long hair.
Yeah,
forget about it. You're not allowed to be
long hair for some reason is nobody.
Well, it's because I don't think that they can't find a way code it so that it doesn't clip. And I get that. It's hard. But
my Sims don't have a problem.
Yeah, the Sims don't. So why can't I just... Oh, my God. It just drives me crazy. And I also was reading the other day about source coding. There's 2 ways to do it, and MMOs do it one way, and single players do it another. But as I was reading about it, this guy was like, there's really no reason why you couldn't buy and download the entire game and put it on your computer. And then the only thing that's going across your internet connection are the commands to do and activate the things on your computer.
It's
and vice versa.
Especially these days, it's not like we're on a 56 bod.
He's like, there's no reason why you couldn't have the level of detail that you want to have and be able to send it to like 50 different people who can see your tune the way that you want to see it.
Yeah.
So when you run into them, they see your tune the way that you want to be seen, and it's only those 10 people, and they downloaded it. And there are like add-ons that do that. Is one in ESO where you download things that you do in your house, and if you have the add-on, then you download the file from this person, and then you see everything that they see in their house. But a regular person wouldn't see it. So it's not clogging up everyone's computer or everyone's connection. It's only the people that you share it with.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
there's no reason, and it's out there, and the technology is there to do this, and for some reason, no MMOs use it. Mobile MMOs, however, do, and I don't know why they don't push it. I just don't get it.
You have to load information when you come into a zone anyway.
Yeah. No?
But I mean, the only thing that you should be loading when you come into a zone, technically, at this point with our computers and our programming the way that it is, would be the players that are there, where they're at in the place, and what they're wearing, if anything. And well, I mean, like if you're if everybody else is cookie cutter and the only people that you actually see with the heavy detail are the people that you've downloaded, which I'd be okay with, that's fine with me. Then they're just a generic character dressed in a generic way like NPCs are. I don't see them the way that they see themselves because I don't know who they are. And if I want to see them, I have to download their file.
Yeah, but
then it's on my computer.
Yeah, but then you're not seeing things as they're meant to be.
But you're seeing, but most of the time, most people have such a slow system to begin with that you like when I'm running around in holiday stuff, I run over people and they get pissed at me. They didn't even frickin' draw. They weren't there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's so many people here. It doesn't even draw.
You're trying to combine new with the old. You're thinking of it if they used it the way it can be, maybe, and the way it probably will be in the future. Here's what I think is gonna. There's a few things that it will take. One of them is, like I said, it's the AI and the AGI to create the. Anybody that listens to, there's a lot of books out there on or like the Dot Hack or the Sword Art Online kind of thing. There's animes, there's book series on that about like kind of what the future of MMOs could be like. And one of the things that is actually, it may not be completely possible now, but could be will be actually. I'm not even gonna say could be, will be in the future. Is the game itself, you give it enough parameters, and it will create the stuff on its own, and it will create it for everybody that's in the area.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. But it's
source programming.
Everybody will see. Sense. But it's you don't download it. Everybody will see it. That's the game. The game is creating the content almost as it goes. That it can do certain scenarios. Life. Yeah. Well, except
whatever they're using.
Right, except that it's not Second Life. Other people are making that, not
but
Second
Life. But the problem with MMO is
something
that we learned in programming is that it's too complicated to pass all that information, which is why MMOs lack what single players do. And they're not as pretty, they're not as tense because that's
for now.
Yes,
here's the deal.
But the point is that technology is moving. We've reached the point of saturation. And according to the people that I've been reading, it makes a lot more sense to go back to the way it used to be.
Right.
And
because now they don't have the other limitations.
Right. Those other limitations are gone now, so we don't need to worry about that, and less would be going over the internet. There'd be less lag. There'd be less problems. It just would be nice, and I would like to see that happen.
Well, and not to mention too, there's other things to consider, other than the algorithms and AGI getting smarter and learning from themselves. There's I don't know how many are aware of what the 5G network that's in progress right now, which, by the way, we don't want that shit being made in China because they will make sure that they have complete and utter control of it and access to everything through it. So we don't want to use the parts that they're making. Just keep that in mind. Nobody in any continent wants to do that. China's very scary. China. But because of one of the things that when that 5G network rolls out as it's supposed to be all over the world, that is going to be the difference. That's when we go from these self-driving smart cars being cute little things that we maybe see every now and then in California or some major city to that being a viable thing, because the internet, the speeds at which everything can communicate will be such that there won't be a problem like we have right now with the internet connectivity and things like that. And these cars will all be talking to each other all at the same time. It won't have the old infrastructure that we currently have. Because if this works the way it's supposed to, and as I understand it, the old cable lines that we have right now, we got to take out this DSL line and upgrade it to 5-cat cable. Well, we got to take the cable out now and upgrade it to fiber optic. Now we have to take out the fiber optic and update it to, I forget what it is right now, but there's something else that they're doing it.
Yeah.
You won't have to do anymore. It'll all be through that stuff. And once we hit that event horizon, these things will all take off. And I know we're going long, so I'm going to wrap this up kind of real quick. So that will be a huge thing. And the other part of it, again, market for MMOs have been flooded over the last 10 years with a bunch of garbage. So there's only so many people as well. There's a lot more gamers now, obviously, than there were in 1999 and the early 2000s. Millions and millions of more. But even of those, there's still only so many that will be willing to play. You still talk to some people and are like, I'm not going to play an MMO and pay $15 a month to do that. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. And you're never going to get those people. So asking somebody to spend 10 or 50 or 10 or 100 hours in a single player game is not really that big of an ask. A lot of people are willing to do that. Witcher 3. But to ask somebody to spend hundreds, if not literally thousands of hours in one game is getting to be a harder and harder sell because our attention spans aren't what they used to be, aside from other things. So,
well, I can't get my kids to play the same game for more than 2 days.
Right.
So.
There you go. So unless...
They're like, why can't I do this and this? I said, you have to play it every day.
Yeah.
Or, regularly, or you're never going to get anywhere. Well, that's boring.
Right. That's like a kid's game. So unless if you can't keep bringing people back, they're not going to come back. So here's my other prediction, and this will be the end of it, promise. MMOs are going to continue to struggle, I think, for probably the next 10 years, give or take. And there'll be a few gems. There'll be some that shine and are really nice, and they're good, decent fun. But the majority are going to make a ripple. They're not even going to make a splash, and they're going to do a little more. And they'll find a little niche of a couple 100,000 people, if that, and they'll be gone. And eventually, someone or something along the lines of the technology involved is they're going to take full advantage of upcoming technology and innovations, and they're going to do it right. And they're going to learn. They're going to do what WoW did. And they're going to learn from everything that came before it, not just World of Warcraft. It might even be a VR MMO. There's a few of them out there right now. Ooh, wow. Bless them for trying, but they're also on the forefront of VRs and MMOs. It's definitely not Sword Art Online, that's for sure. But there's going to be. It's going to be something like that. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be in for another good 10-year slump before something like that manages to get out there. VR, I think VR is probably going to be the future of a lot of the gaming and MMOs and stuff like that. The prices are coming down. The people are getting better at making people not, throw up when they're in it for a long thing of time. But whenever this happens, it's going to remind the gaming industry, just like it did when EverQuest came out, and then just like it did later when World of Warcraft came out, that there is a lot of possibilities, and there's a lot of choices that can be made, and a lot of things that can be offered, and it'll suck people right back into it. But for now, we're stuck with what we've got. And honestly, I don't see even the stuff on the future. While some of it's going to be fun, and I think I'll probably enjoy a lot of it, it's not going to be it's not going to be a decades-long play session like we've had before, until something really, really innovates and creates everything basically from the ground up. Starts a whole, almost reignites the entire genre and starts it over just like it did back in 2000. That's just me. Maybe I could be wrong. I doubt it.
That leads into my last question, which I promise is super quick. It's a yes or no question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'll ever feel that sense of childlike wonder in an MMO?
Yes, I think it'll come back. Just not right now.
Yeah, it's going to be whatever creates the content as it goes, like what I was just describing. I think that will do it when it's something so technologically and software-wise mind-blowing that you just can't believe, especially for us old-timers, that something like this even exists and is even capable of existing. And I think that's when we'll get that whole, like, age of wonder and stuff back. But it's going to take a technological leap and advancement, just like going from black and white TV to color, and then going from color TVs to, plasmas and LEDs and that kind of thing. That's kind of jaw-dropping when you really look at it and how short a time it was, but it takes a pretty big leap in tech and then price-wise to make that happen. Yeah. That's my guess anyway. But I think eventually we'll get there. It's going to be a bit of a slog. Until then, back to Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'm sorry I kept everybody here so long. I know you guys had all stuff to do, but appreciate everybody for tuning in. Go ahead and start the music. Kick this off. Remember, join us over at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. Really appreciate everybody listening through all this stuff. I know it's a lot of technical babble and all that detail history garbage, but and not a ton to do with roleplay, but it is the genre in which we do choose to roleplay, so that's kind of where it all came from. If we don't have anything to roleplay in, we're not really going to be roleplaying a lot. That's kind of how that goes. So, I want to thank everybody for being here. Jazz, Sib, Yunfei, you guys are awesome for hanging in there. Sorry it took so long again. But, hope everyone had a good time. Remember, tune in next week for Halflings and why you should never see them in VR. Ever. It's not something you should do. Don't do it. It's bad.
Bye, guys.
Next time on RPMMORadio. Good night, everybody. The thoughts and opinions of those on RPMMORadio are just that and should not be taken like the gospel truth, but pretty close to it. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great video game rut covers and original music.